Well, I'll call him. All right, I see we're live streaming.
You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
All right, great. Good evening, folks. Time is now 6:30 p.m. I am Chairman Mike Curry, and I'd like to call this Select Board Business Meeting to order on this 28th day of July, 2021. Please rise and join me for the national anthem, and the flag is to your left, your right, my left. Oh, did I say national anthem?
Yeah.
Pledge of allegiance.
No, we're not.
Unless you would like.
We're singing now.
We did it at the senior center. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, before we begin, I'd like to state for the record that not only are we being streamed live on TCTV, Cable Station 8, and our YouTube web platform, but this evening's recording will be available for later viewing on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button and click the bell. I'm channeling my YouTube personality. Okay, I will mention that we do have a full, we have a quorum. We've got our full board this evening. Good evening to all of you. As always, our agenda for this evening has been set no later than 48 hours out by law, and it is publicly available at the official source for town information, templetonma.gov. There was one amendment with one agenda item added in accordance with that, within that law I was just talking about, and that would be item P added to the agenda. P as in Papa. Although I have the discretion as chairperson to add and remove from the agenda, it has been set to allow for time, personnel resources, and public awareness. I reserve the right to move agenda items around to best fit our business and our guests. Thank you. Okay, and just a reminder, if you haven't been watching from home or otherwise, TCTV, as always, has been taking care of us. We have this item right in front of me called the OWL that snaps audio and visual to anyone speaking within the room. Pretty cool device. People watching on YouTube and television will automatically see who is speaking. Thank you, TCTV, for that capability. It really kind of takes away the need to come up to what we lovingly call the hot seat. However, if you'd like to come up to the front just to be a little bit more one-on-one with the board, we would allow that as well. Okay, first item that we've got tonight, we've got some minutes to approve, just 1 minute meeting. It's July 14th, 2021. Those are in your packet. I had one question. I did not know Martin Haley personally. It says former selectman who passed away. Was he a former selectman?
No, he's Diane's dad.
Okay, so I would say that's the only thing that we need to change that I saw.
Yeah.
Former select person.
Former select
Haley's
person's
father.
father. Correct.
So as amended.
Yep, as amended. Mhm.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as amended from July 14th, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any further observations or amendments to those minutes from July 14th? Okay, hearing none, on the motion to admit the meetings as amended for the 14th of July, 2021, how would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Julie?
Abstain.
And I vote yes. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I would accept any citizen input. Come on up. Sure. How are you, Justice?
I'm doing well. So my name is Justice Graves. I am a member of the Narragansett Regional School District School Committee, but I'm speaking today more as a private resident. One of the things that has been interesting out of the course of this pandemic that that sort of came on my doorstep literally today was that we've done a lot of risk management. We've done a lot of teamwork and collaboration. But one of the things that has not been talked about is transition building, because, you know, we're very fortunate. We have a younger administration here. We have new, constant, inform members on the board. But that was not necessarily true for the rest of the state, and that wasn't necessarily true for every municipality. And I've seen it because I've gone not only to your meetings, but I've gone to the Phillipson Board of Selectmen's meetings. I've gone to the advisory committee meetings. I've been going to some of the recreation committee meetings and recreation commission meetings. But what's interesting is that the thing that keeps coming up, at least for the new members of those committees, what are our jobs? What are our policies? How do we communicate effectively with the leaderships of you guys? And how do we work with the other boards and committees and municipalities to sort of work around us that I think we take for granted, that there's so many people that have municipal government experience who work in our various departments, but I don't think some of the people on the committees necessarily have that experience. And I think that creates a lot of confusion. And what happened to come on my doorstep today is probably one of the only two people in Templeton that probably got this, was a welcome packet from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, because they, as empowered by the state of Massachusetts as a legal statewide collaborative, they have the right to figure out who we are if we're new members and to contact us with every piece of information in this packet, notwithstanding everything about open meeting law, executive session, etc., is also information about parliamentary procedures. I literally have a flashcard that tells me how to make motions now. But also about if we were in a bind, how do we do a superintendent search? How do we do these sorts of things? So I think that it would be imperative, especially since we have a lot of we talk about how we struggle so much with having all of these standing committees that we don't fill. I think what terrifies more people than not is they walk into these committees and they say, okay, go for it. What do you do next? And I know me and you have talked a lot about this. You walked into Selectman's position without knowing. Me and Selectman Griffiths have talked a lot. You walked into the position. You've been creating basically a transition binder for your successor, whoever that may be in the future. But that's not everybody has the time to do such a thing, and not everybody has the, where do you start on that? I think it's probably a good idea if in the future we build sort of a packet for new members on different commissions and committees. I think it's probably also good for self-preservation for the select board to come up with some sort of item like that to make sure that that gets out to every new person, that is just filled with basics, basic essentials, basic how do you interact with each of your committees? How do they interact with you? How does that kick up and kick down in terms of the legislative pipe, in terms of the executive pipe? And because I think, again, we've been very fortunate when it comes to the experience and the youth that sort of come up onto our boards and committees, but that is the one question that we have not answered in this entire pandemic. What happens when you lose everybody? What happens next? So that was my input.
Sure.
And that's all I have to
Great
say.
point.
Thank you.
I know Rec doesn't know how to use Unipay,
Mm.
and there's no one to explain it to him right now.
I don't know if the board will allow me just 30 seconds to kind of say, I think that's a great point, but there's 3 things that I know that we're working on. So to give you a little bit of, do we have a comprehensive thing? No, and I think that's a great idea, Justice. I know when you were on capital planning, Wellspring and Advisory makes it a point to make sure that every single member has when I say all of the documents that has ever been issued or looked at by the advisory committee. I'm making a joke about it, but he does a really good job of indoctrinating those members. New in the community, Jackie Prime is working on that welcome packet for the town. I've seen a draft of it. It is fantastic. I think we're looking at making a couple other tweaks to it. We are disjointed in terms of a consolidated method to say, welcome to insert committee or, commission here. I think that's a great thing. From a pandemic perspective and continuity planning, I absolutely agree with you. I've been working with Rich Curtis. It is definitely dear to my heart. An emergency action plan or a comprehensive emergency management plan is definitely something that we need to be able to offer the public, not just internally for how to do stuff or else, but something that is inspectable and available for any person in the community. There are towns that have it out there. We don't have it on our website, but because of what you brought up and that necessity, now that we're almost through a pandemic, that we need, that's the kind of planning that we need. So thank you for briefing us tonight on that. Excellent. Absolutely.
I'd like to add 30 seconds to that, Justice. That's a great point. And to that, we are not alone. 2 weeks ago today, I attended an MMA conference, and it was also a representative from KP Law who advises a bunch. There are a bunch of changes coming down the pipe. There are some changes to open meeting law. All of these have been addressed. Today, the MMA did a conference, and the town of Franklin, the city of Franklin and the town of Stowe did an excellent presentation. To put it in perspective, Stowe is about 7,200 residents strong. Franklin is 35,000 residents strong. And some of the technology we're using today and some of the ways we're communicating are leaps and bounds among other communities in the states. Yep, little tiny Templeton tough. But stand by because the rules are going to change.
Thanks. Any other citizen input? I will say that I did get an email communication from Mr. Steve Drury asking to look into questions of abatement.
Exemption.
Exemption. Yep. So, you know, I know that Steve can't come to public meetings as much as he would like. Steve, we are working on that from the assessor's office, and we do owe you an answer back. Any other public input, citizen input? Okay. All right, let's move into new business. First, are any introductions of new employees? I believe we have one.
We do, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Steve, if you want, Mr. Castle.
Steve Castle, TCTV, would like to welcome our new program coordinator, Dan Walker, who started this week, and Dan just got his head full of TV server software and Zoom software and streaming software, and I think he's gonna come back, so that's really good. And Dan has a lot of experience in the field setting up for production, so we're hoping to learn from him as well and become better at that, so welcome you, Dan. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Dan, do you live in town?
I live in Winchester.
In Winchendon. Excellent. We're glad to have you. You join a fantastic team. I think you'll find it exciting and tip of the spear kind of stuff.
I'm enjoying it very much already.
Awesome.
And compared to my commute to Boston,
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
you can't beat 20 minutes. Right. Well, welcome aboard. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Adam. Any other new employees? Good. Okay. All right, we're going to move into appointments. This evening, we have a couple of community interest forms. We've got one from Aaron Davis, David Manzello, and glad to see Tom Smith's community interest form. So for new appointments this evening, we have, let's talk Capital Improvements Committee first. Everyone sees the interest form for Tom Smith. Interest in serving again on the Capital Improvements Committee, which is great. There's
make a motion.
good continuity. And Tom is the fire chief for Winchendon. He's still the chief up there.
He did a good job last year.
And he was the chair of the advisory committee.
I think it
outgoing.
suits him better than advisory committee because it's not the hefty commitment involved.
Yep.
And sitting under him, he was fair and logical. He progressed, you know, kept the meetings progressing and, you know, had a method.
Mhm. And that would be the at-large position. Is that right, Jeff? I think it's the at-large, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion to appoint Tom Smith to a one-year position on the Capital Improvements Committee to expire on 6/30/2022.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on appointing Tom Smith to the at-large position on the Capital Improvements Committee? Hearing none on the motion to appoint Tom Smith to the Capital Improvements Committee at large position for one term to expire on June 30th, 2022. How would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. I didn't look and see if Tom was actually on tonight. Congrats, Tom, if you're watching. And as I had said, we have a community interest forum for Recreation Commission from Erin Davis and Dave Manzello. Are you here this evening? Dave and Erin? No, Erin, but Dave. Dave, how are you?
Good.
We've got your interest form. Please step up.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
No, I don't have it, actually. I don't. I just have Tom and Erin. That's it, Tom and Erin.
Tom, tell us about yourself.
Moved into town 2 years ago in July. Got 3 kids that are active in recreation, basketball, soccer, baseball. Figured, what the heck, they're already at half the events, might as well
Right? Help out.
help out.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Where are you moving in from?
We were living in Fitchburg. I grew up in Ashby.
Okay.
I work in Munster. What I do is subcontract with municipalities to run their assessor's office.
Yep. Great. Well, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that.
Good time to join, good time to step up. It's a fresh board and
Yep, they had their meeting
last night,
last night.
yeah. You're in good company.
Yeah, good.
So these are one-year appointments for both Dave and Erin.
Mr.
Erin's
Chair-
not on online. Okay. David Manzella. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to appoint Erin Davis and David Manzello to a one-year term on the Recreation Commission to expire 6/30/2022.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none on the motion to appoint Erin Davis and David Manzello to the Recreation Committee for a term of 1 year expiring on 6/30/2022. How would you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes,
Julie?
Yes.
And Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Congrats. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're getting together a comprehensive way to understand what happens when you get on a committee. No, I'm sure they will take care of you. If you have any questions, please reach out. Okay, I think that does it for appointments this evening. We are going to move on to our next item, which is a public hearing for Templeton Fish and Game. We have reps tonight. Sir,
I'm Doug Ducal. I'm the chairman of the Templeton Fish and Game Club.
Linda Sullivan, Barton.
We also have 2 other people with us as well.
okay. Okay,
I'm John Coney, I'm the building groundsman.
okay.
And my name is Dina St. Pierre. I'm the event coordinator for the country festival, the music festival.
And I'm sorry, your first name again was?
Dina.
Dina. Oh,
Dina,
sorry. I put it on.
D-E-N-A. Yeah.
And yours?
St. Pierre.
Mine's John Coney.
I just wanted to be able to get everyone's first name. And you'll be calling witnesses.
Just us, I guess.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
I declare that I'm a member there.
After the hearing.
Okay.
Because you can declare it within the hearing, but we don't
I
vote
know
on
sometimes you
anything
have to leave the
afterwards.
room. All right.
We do have town council on this evening. Tom, Terry is a member of Templeton Fish and Game. Would she need to disclose, or would she need to
Recuse.
leave the room, or just, she doesn't have any, she's not on the board or otherwise?
Right. So Terry, I think the analysis comes down to whether or not you think you have a financial interest in the matter. And that could be if, if a fine is issued and if a fine is issued and you're going to have to pay some of it, you do have a financial interest. So the safe advice is to recuse yourself. If you don't think you have a financial interest, then I would just declare that, you know, you've stated you're a member, and I would say you don't think you have a financial interest.
I don't have a financial.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for the Templeton Fish and Game Club liquor and entertainment license violations.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to open the public hearing for Templeton Fish and Game Club liquor and entertainment license violation. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. This public hearing is open at 6:50 PM. Mr. LaMontagne or Templeton Police Department, do you want to, so this is how a public hearing is going to work for this liquor license violation. Basically, I think Judge Judy, you're going to have your plaintiff side, you're going to have your defendant side. Any questions from the board? It's really just fact finding, trying to make a determination. We don't make any determinations inside the public hearing. We close the public hearing. Any final recommendations by the plaintiff, and then we close the hearing, and then the board can so move if it decides to. There is a possibility if we do not have enough information, if the board feels that they do not have enough information, we can also continue a public hearing if we so choose. So we are open as of 6:50. Mr. LaMontagne, who is going to act as plaintiff?
Chair, if I can, Officer Malnati's here. The letter was served July 15th when we received the report from Templeton Police Department. Now in this process, I believe Officer Malnati, if you'd come up and present your report to the board, and then that way you do your report, and then they will do their process in the public hearing.
Officer.
Malnati.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Malnati.
Malnati. I'm deaf and mute. So you have this cover sheet?
I do not.
Okay. I think for the purposes of what we're here tonight, this cover sheet serves as the background and really the so what. As witness or otherwise, additional information, that's where he can offer probably the most. So what I would like to do is if you could read through this, and then any other questions the board can ask before we move to the defendant.
That's fine. Sergeant Fliss, sir.
I use the word defendant, it's complainant. It just helps people understand the process.
So if I can,
Yep.
I'll read the report, or,
Yep.
excuse me,
And
my
just speak
letter I
up.
was sent.
Yep, speak up for the while.
It has come to our attention that the Templeton Fish and Game Club, Inc., the club violated Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 2, in the terms of its liquor license issued pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, as well as Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 184, in the terms of its entertainment license issued pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 183A. Specifically, on June 26, 2021, the club exposed for sale and sold alcoholic beverages without proper licensure and with full knowledge that a license is required for such actions. While the club possesses a liquor license, the booth at which the alcoholic beverages were exposed for sale and sold was not within confines of the licensed premises. Further, during the event at which the alcohol was exposed for sale and sold, the club maintained a live concert, also not within the confines of the premises, licensed under the club's entertainment license. Failure to obtain proper licensure for the concert constitutes a violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 184. I have attached the narrative of the police officers relative to these matters for your information. Be advised that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section A, and Section 184, a hearing will be held by the Board of Selectmen regarding this violation on Wednesday, July 28, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. The hearing will be held in the conference room at Town Hall, 160 Patriots
Road, East Templeton, MA, at which the board may consider the suspension, revocation, or modification of the club's existing liquor license and license, as well as any appropriate penalties pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 184. You may appear on your own behalf or with your attorney and with witnesses, if any, for the select board and the Montane Town Administrator. So with that, I think we could turn it over to the officer.
Thank you.
Just gonna read my report for you. On Saturday, June 26, 2021, I, Officer Nicholas Malnati, Templeton Police Department, was assigned to the uniform 1,500, 2,300-hour patrol shift. At approximately 16:30 hours, I conducted a check of the Templeton Fish and Game Club at 200 Club Road in the town of Templeton. I was requested to do so by Sergeant Derek Hall. I observed an outdoor concert in the pavilion area of the club. There was a large number of vehicles and people. There was a band playing on the stage near the clubhouse. And it also should be noted that the beach area of the club was empty. The area was photographed and my findings were reported straight to Sergeant Derek Hall.
Are there any questions for Officer Maloney?
You say the pavilion, was it the one, if you look at the clubhouse itself, was it the big pavilion to the left or the one that's closest to the water?
There were people at both, but it was the one to the left, but not closest to the water, up the hill.
Just the one to the left?
Yes.
I just had a question. Why was it that you were requested to go up and do a check on the area? Was there a phone call of complaint loud?
I actually have no
Or
idea.
you have no idea?
Asked by the sergeant and I did what he said.
Right, exactly. Okay, thank you. I was just curious why he would request that.
When taking pictures, was it your understanding that some areas were with out of bounds and some areas were inbounds? There were some areas where they could have people consuming alcohol beverages and other areas where they could not.
The information that I got, and again, just briefly through conversation, was that there was an event that was supposed to be held, and it was supposed to be held in the beach area, which is why I specifically had mentioned the beach area as being empty. And that was pretty much it. It was a quick in and out check, and I reported right back to the sergeant.
Okay. Did you encounter any other inconsistencies when you were in the area?
When I left the area on Patriots Road, I observed with my partner, who just had to take off, Charlene Fancock, also an officer, a golf cart with 3 females. They were trying to get over to the clubhouse side. They decided to exit on Hubbardston Road and then come all the way down to 2A, trying to get back over to the clubhouse side. We ended up speaking with them. They were all wearing yellow wristbands, telling us they were coming from and going to the Country Fest event club. And we ended up towing the golf cart and we sent them on their way and they went back to the event.
And approximately how many people do you believe were attending the event based on your observations?
I would say over 100.
Okay. Any other questions we officer?
Did you happen to look up any records on file with the police department with regards to past complaints or issues of the club with the same type of thing?
I did not, and I've been here for 7 years now, and this will be the first time I've been called to document on anything like that.
Thank you.
That's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other one offering evidence on the complaintor side? Okay, let's move into the complainant side. Like I said, you can stay right there. I'll allow you to make any statements or call any witnesses that you wish, and then afterwards, if you permit, any questions.
I'll have Linda talk through most of she's the bar manager.
Okay.
I was unaware that we needed a specific license for the actual stage over by that pavilion. We have tried to be compliant on everything that we have done. I got the Sunday entertainment license passed, and that was for the beach side. This was always supposed to be at the main pavilion side. And I never knew that we needed a license for just that. We have a license for the clubhouse for entertainment and for liquor. We also have it for down below, and I thought it was all together at that point in time, especially with the COVID rules of being able to be outside. I thought that that was a permittable thing. We do have another event coming in August in which I am applying. Unfortunately, Holly is on bereavement leave, so I'm going to be doing that on Monday or Tuesday of this week. And we are also adding the entire premises so that we can just have it as a license for the entire year and not have to do licenses for each event that we have. So we're going to be redoing our license to include the entire premises. So this does not happen again. Other than that, as far as the golf cart, that was not a members golf cart or anybody who was part of the Templeton fishing game. It was an outside person. We were told about that much after the fact of when that happened. So we do have security aware of it for our next event, and we're going to take precautions to make sure that that does not happen.
May I also speak up for a moment?
Of course.
I would like to point out that we did have a fence up around the perimeter of where the alcohol and the band were playing. So it was contiguous to the club, which was one of the rules pertaining to serving. I think that we felt that we were covered by all of, we've got 4 or 5 or 6 different permits or for different licenses. We just thought that we had enough.
It was ignorance on my part that I did not know that we needed one specifically for that date.
Okay. Linda, thank you.
Hi, again, Dina Safe here. Again, I'm the event coordinator for the Country Fest. I would like to mention too that Linda is a new bar manager for us this year. I'm not sure exactly what date she took over. So it used to be Lisa DeRusso. Lisa did this a few times, so she was more aware of what was needed. Linda did not know exactly what was needed. So that's that. And as Doug said, it's typically a controlled environment where we have everything fenced off so that people stay inside, don't take alcohol outside, and so forth. Golf carts are generally our only members, and camp owners generally are only the ones that have golf carts, which we generally have special parking for them so that they really aren't driving around. Again, like they said, this particular gentleman brought the golf cart from his house. And I've been told he lives in this area, not too far, drove it over to the club. His mother and a couple other people took off on it. Our security happened to not see it at the time. But, you know, again, it wasn't one of our camp owners. It wasn't that type of situation. So that's basically what happened on that. But other than that, we do have security for our next event. And again, they're definitely aware of the situation. We want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Okay. Dina, I got a follow-up question. Can you describe the security that you have for either whether it's a special event or otherwise? I think I'm more concerned about a special event because that's really
Yeah, the only time
the nature of the violation.
The only time we have security is for this type of event.
Okay.
Because it's larger than our normal Sunday afternoon thing. So we hired these 10 gentlemen. They're part of a motorcycle club. And some of them have previous backgrounds in some type of law enforcement and whatnot, or have taken some sort of classes. And they walk the perimeter, they walk around the parking lot. The big thing for us is not to make sure no one's drinking at their cars. We have signs up everywhere saying no alcohol coming in or out. So we have also staff members that stand at our gate areas where the fence is to make sure no one's bringing alcohol out, no one's bringing alcohol in. That's the main thing right there, is to make sure that's not happening. And security patrols the parking lot and whatnot, and they have radios and.
But they're not professional. You're labeling them. They're basically deputized employees for the day, but they're not professional security.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
They've done it for other events also,
Okay.
not at our facility itself. So, but yes.
Okay. And Linda, how long have you been bar manager?
Since March,
Since March.
the end of March.
Okay. And it's your contention that this slipped between the cracks. I don't know if you had mentioned that. I think.
When I looked at the liquor license, I do feel with the COVID rules being that we could serve outside, I did believe that it fell into that category.
Okay,
When I knew that we didn't have a Sunday entertainment license, I made sure we got that before we had any Sunday entertainment down by our pavilion. I've been trying to be compliant on everything.
Okay.
That I wasn't
Yeah.
aware that we needed a permit for that particular bandstand.
okay. Thank you for that. John, anything? Okay,
Dan just also said that,
Go
club
ahead,
has always tried to be compliant over the many years we've been in town. This is the first time we've come before the board for any violations that I'm aware of, and I've been chairman for 6 years.
thanks. Thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions for the representatives from Templeton Fish and Game?
No question, just a comment. I'm with Doug. I'm
Well,
like,
we can deliberate after the hearing at this point, we're
Okay.
just collecting information.
okay.
Okay, any further in support of the complainant? Okay, hearing nothing further, before we close the hearing, I'll ask for a recommendation from town administrator or as, because you wrote the letter to notify them, or the police department. Is there any recommendation?
Councilman Malnati, do you want to speak first, or? I don't feel I'm in a position to make any recommendation.
Final impressions?
Never had a problem. I've been here 7 years, so I've never had a problem.
Okay. All right.
So I'll have some Malnati if I can, Mr. Chair. With what happened and the fact that I hear that they didn't have any issues in the past, I think it would be, this is more of a technical violation, and I would find it suitable for some type of warning. Just to show that, it was documented, we did hear it, and but I'll leave it to the board to decide whether that be verbal or written. But that would be my recommendation, based on the fact that technically it was a violation, it occurred. But they have been compliant with all the rules in the past, so that's where I leave that.
All right, thank you for that recommendation. Any last?
I agree with Doug. I was surprised and I'm like, what?
No.
I thought they were so
We're still in
covered.
the hearing. You
Oh,
have
sorry.
questions? Sorry. I'll close the hearing because I don't think anyone else has got anything else. At this point, I would make a motion to close the public hearing for the Templeton Fish and Game Club liquor and entertainment license violations. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Any last questions? Hearing none. On the motion to close the public hearing for Templeton Fish and Game Club liquor and entertainment license violations, how do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. This hearing is closed as of 7:08 PM. Deliberations. You can lead us off.
Oh my gosh, I agree with Doug. I'm like, they have everything. How could this happen? And as a member, I've been to events there and they've always had people checking tabs in and out. Whether it was required in the past or not, usually it was members making sure that no alcohol was coming in, no alcohol was coming out. And, I can't speak highly enough of the club. And we signed Lisa on this year. She came before us and my question was answered. How long have you been on? Understandable. So, I'm in favor of just a verbal, really, at this point.
Mr. Chairman,
Please go ahead, Jeff.
if I may.
Yes.
Just as a background, and I won't get back to 03, but I've lived on Patriots Road since 2003. Had many events up there. Other than noticing a little traffic, sometimes motorcycles, cars. I don't know how much goes towards South Main Street. I just know what goes towards 2A. And you hear a little increase in traffic and stuff, but other than that, I've never seen people walking down the road, golf carts, lawnmowers, cars, really speeding, drunks, driving, anything. I was on board in 2011 to 14. This is the first time I've ever heard the Fish and Game Club coming before the board for anything. I know what the law says, but as it was stated, they have the clubhouse and a couple of pavilions, and it's right in a close proximity. So I don't see a big issue, and I don't expect to see them back here in front of this board for this or something else. So I would recommend they just both hold out their hands. We'll spank them and send them on their way. They can get their licenses, their permits, and we'll just put this on file as one for the experience bureau and let it be. And the same, I don't recall either the other club, Auto River Sportsman's Club, doesn't have nothing to do with tonight, but I don't recall the clubs coming before the board. There's been a couple of places in town that like revolving chair, but the two clubs that I just don't recall that them coming here for these issues. And again, a technical thing, and don't do it again and get stuff in order. That would be my vote. They really didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they did, but they didn't really do any big thing wrong. And the golf cart, the people, why?
Yeah, that wasn't a consideration.
As we roll, it goes right
Yeah,
back
that
to
was
the club.
more,
That's just-
that was
and that's
more
not on them.
establishing that it
That's not on
was,
them.
I agree. I think the golf cart issue is not part of this, but it's evidence that it was an event. So there are several things within this that we had to establish that it was an event where it was notification, all these other considerations, especially during COVID-19 with all of the different roped off areas and all the things that people have come to us to ask for. It can be confusing, but it was no evidence that said we are going around it knowingly. We're not trying to, the evidence that they're trying to protect their patrons, because we have had deadly events in the past when it's come to the local licensing authority. So, that's why we ask the questions about security and making sure that we're dotting I's and crossing T's. Julie or Tim?
I just had a comment, and I agree 100% with Jeff. I was raised in Templeton, lived a mile from Templeton Fish. Their reputation over the years has been remarkable. It's impeccable. I think this was an oversight. And again, we have nothing else on record. I've been on this board, I'm going on my third term, never had to hear boo about either one of the major clubs or, clubs in town. I don't even know why they would have gone up there. I don't live very far. It's never too loud, even on the 4th of July, where I've been, and it's loud, but it's not out of control in any way. And yeah, sorry that you were hired at such a bad time. COVID really got in your way. And I agree with, the fact that legally, was it a technicality? Do you deserve anything more than even that, a slap in the hand? I really doubt that.
Thank you, Julie. Anything, Tim? Okay, anything from town council?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So procedurally, I wanted to suggest that, I think you're taking, you need to determine two things here. And it's my advice that you take them in two separate votes. So the first vote would be whether or not a violation occurred. And you'll vote the way you want to on that. It sounds to me like the applicant is acknowledging that a violation occurred. So that's vote one. Then vote two is the discipline, whatever form that takes, but I wouldn't combine them into one vote. And just a word on discipline. It's absolutely within this board's discretion to issue a warning, issue a one-day suspension, which you can hold in abeyance for a year, so that you issue the suspension for one day. You don't make them serve it until there's a second violation. And I'm not suggesting either one. What I do want the board to know, though, is that because the ABCC violations are cumulative, so that if, with different actors, when we end up before the ABCC, the number of violations matters to the ABCC, and a warning in this instance would not rise to the level of a violation to the ABCC. So that may be exactly what you want to do, I just want you to understand that the warning you're talking about, A, is not appealable, and C, would not be considered a violation by the ABCC.
Thank you, Tom. And I think it's also within 140, 184, that it also could be a fine up to $500, correct?
So that's for the violation of the entertainment license. So there's two things at play here, is that there's a suspicion that they violated their alcohol license by serving in a part of the premises that was not licensed. And then the second was that they conducted the entertainment component also in an area that wasn't specifically licensed for that.
So it's 140, 184, and which general law was for the license?
138.
$138.12.
Yeah.
And that does that also have a monetary?
Typically, no.
All right, I've got some motions. So before I read both, or I'll go through the first motion, but we do have precedent. We have had hearings in the past where we've had either minor or major issues, and we've always dealt with them to make sure that that there is a sufficient slap on the hand. But there has been precedent through from this board, at least from the board makeup that mostly that we see here tonight. Templeton. On June 26th. So the first motion that I would offer is, I would like to offer a motion to corroborate and agree with the allegations of the general law 140, 184, and 138.12 violation with regard to the events of Templeton Fish and Game Club on June 26, 2021. Tom, was that legally sufficient?
I think that's sufficient. Yeah, so that's to deter that's the board is now voting to determine if they believe a violation occurred.
That is correct. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments, concerns?
In my mind, I'm thinking violation or oversight, same thing, violation, oversight.
Well, there was a
That's
right. We asked questions specifically of Linda about how that occurred, but ultimately what the observations of our public safety team is that there was a violation. And that enough evidence was offered. My vote will reflect it. I believe that it was enough evidence. That's why I made the motion the way I did.
okay.
Any further? Okay, not hearing anything further on the motion to corroborate and agree with the allegations of General Law 140 subsection 184 and General Law 138 subsection 12 violation with regard to the events at Templeton Fish and Game Club on June 26, 2021. How do you vote, Jeff? Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And I would offer a motion to impose a $25 fine on the Templeton Fish and Game Club for violating General Law 140 subsection 184 and for no penalty for violating 138 subsection 12, and for the board to reiterate the necessity to coordinate event licenses with the town.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? $25 is 100% consistent with how we have been in the past.
Do we have to impose a fine?
My reasoning that we would impose a very reduced fine for what the licenses cost in the first place is basically a slap on the hand to say, just make sure that You have a stellar record. Let's make sure that we can keep it that way. Because I usually start with you. We can make it $2. I think $25 is a pretty standard figure for what we've used in the past.
I agree.
And we do have precedent
Correct.
of previous events at other organizations.
Right. If I believed, as I had said, it is a maximum of $500. If I believe that there was malicious intent or otherwise, and I agree with everybody here, I've not lived in town as long as you, but I definitely know the great service, and a lot of people have fun. My next door neighbors enjoy it. I hope to get there someday. But as far as moving forward, there's no malicious intent. This is just a violation of the liquor law, understanding that there are a lot of different components out there, but I think this is sufficient for this violation.
And to be clear, it's not going to reflect to the ABCC.
Well,
What we're voting on isn't going to impact them with the ABCC.
if you, so that would be,
That's correct.
Okay, I'll make sure.
no, it's a good question. So everyone's okay with 25 and none for the 138.12. Okay, hearing nothing further, on the motion to impose a $25 fine on the Templeton Fish and Game Club for violating General Law 140 subsection 184, and no fine or no punishment for violating 138 subsection 12, and for the board to reiterate the necessity to coordinate event licenses with the town. How do you vote, Jeff?
No.
Terry?
No.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes. I know that from a records perspective, I know that you're writing it down, and Holly will be working on the notes. So that is 2 no's, 3 yeses.
Right.
Okay, folks, minor fine for just the letter of the law for the violation. Thank you for what you do for the community. If we can do anything to make that process for your August event, just to make sure that it's done. I know that Holly's out on bereavement leave, but anything that we can do to support that.
Are you open Mondays?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be here Monday.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Linda.
Monday,
Thanks,
Tuesday,
Doug.
Wednesday, Linda.
Okay.
Dina
I was
and
like, I
John.
knew one day you weren't open.
And this result of the vote doesn't impact us with the ABCC.
No, it's not.
That is correct. Town council is nodding his head again.
Yeah.
Right, there was no violation found under the ABCC license. It was your entertainment license that you received the $25 fine for.
And that's why that motion reflects that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we could have made it 2. I just wanted.
Yeah, but then I would have been showing favors.
Yeah, it's been money for others.
Yeah. That was there at the time.
Mr.
Do we
Chair,
need to take a recess?
bid you
Yes,
goodbye.
go ahead. We bid you adieu. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Is Ryan hanging out? Is Ryan with you or hanging out?
Ryan's here, yeah.
Sticking around? Oh, okay. Bye, both of you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
I'm waving to the television. We need to take a recess at all?
No.
Proceed. Okay. All right. We are moving on in the agenda.
That wore me out.
Did you really just make that rule?
We are moving to item D. It is a presentation from our community services for our quarterly report for FY21. Hello, Mrs. Pine.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You weren't here yet, but we were talking with Justice about your welcome. You might watch it later, but he was concerned about continuity and speaking with just so the community and then also boards understand like what's the lay of the land or otherwise. And I referred to your draft welcome packet for the town. So that'll be very interesting as we roll that out as well.
Okay, great.
Well, good evening.
Good evening. So I have for the library, we remained closed during 2 of the this quarter's months. During that period, we continued with curbside service. We partnered with TCTV for some story and craft time videos. The Girl Scout Troop 64548 transformed a small 2-drawer card catalog that we no longer used into a
I can't wait to see it.
gorgeous seed library. Oh my gosh.
I went in last week and I forgot to look. Tomorrow.
It's beautiful. They did a wonderful job. You all held a public hearing for the 3 dedicated library spots. That's worked out wonderfully, especially since we've opened on June 2nd. We welcome back our patrons with enthusiasm. I don't know who was happier, them or us, because it just was so great to have them in the building again. It didn't feel right to have a closed building, so that was great. And we started preparing for the farmers market, which began in this quarter on June 3rd and has honestly been growing ever since. So if you have any questions about the library side of things,
How's the roof?
the roof is great.
right.
I know,
Good to
right?
hear.
Yeah. No leaks.
That'd be awesome, Andrew.
I know, oh, the porch is beautiful. Yeah, it's really nice. Over at the senior center, just like the library, they were closed for 2 of the 3 months, but they held many weekly programs, to-go lunch pickups, blood pressure clinic, craft project distribution, their newsletter, their Meals on Wheels, transportation, everything continued. Cindy Shea had applied for and was awarded a caregiver respite grant. That was fully underway in this quarter, served, she just sent me the statistics for the weekly. It served 11 households in town, and believe me, those people were really appreciative of the break and of little nice gifts, and it was a wonderful grant. Then the reopening task force met. They had been planning a lot of the events that happened last week for the grand reopening, which if you were part of that, it was really wonderful. The center received a gift of our older Mart van after they replaced it with a newer model. Bob and his crew detailed it, and we were calling it Extreme Van Makeover. It looks great. And the Templeton Fire Department provided seniors with some lock boxes. So there was a lot going on, and the center reopened to the public on June 1st. And they had an art gallery later in the month with some paintings of a local artist.
So was that I think that was in the garden rooms. I didn't
Yes,
see that.
Walter's Feet.
Mhm.
Yes. Yep, so they got a great turnout for that, so.
What are the lock boxes for?
Actually, I have no idea what we're talking about.
Really?
We
Sorry.
applied for a grant.
I don't have a bus license, I
Cindy
swear.
said you provided some boxes for seniors, no?
No, we applied for a grant they're called the Knox box. And we applied for a grant, did not get the grant.
Well, find out, because she put that in her weekly.
What are they used for?
It's like the one here on the town hall building. It's a security box that only public safety fire department has a key to. In the box, we have the key to the building, so for like the seniors, or if they have it residentially, you would put your house key in it. So we have access to it in case of an emergency. We don't have to break a window, break a door or something to get in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit more to go on that.
Well, we put in there was a grant available, and we tried to get 12 of them that we could lend out as needed to people. We would keep track of them, and when a senior or somebody in need would need one, we could lend it out. And when they were no longer in need for it, we would take it back to somebody else and have a stock of them. But we were unable. We did not get the grant.
Talk with Rich. I see this totally tied to pandemic, a need and necessity wise. So if you talk with Rich, if you ran into a funding wall, I'm certain that he can work his grant magic or whatever he needs to do to tap some money for that, because I think that's a great thing.
Now we've had a few people in the community that we'll call frequent flyers that, we get the call from dispatch, call us if you want to know where the key is. And usually we already know where the key is because we've been there a few times, so forth. Now, I could say we could easily put out about 4 or 5 of these things.
Okay.
I will talk to Rich. I have other avenues as well. It's
Okay.
just the grant, we just, we applied for it a couple months ago. We just found out probably maybe a week, 2 weeks ago that we did not get it.
Yeah.
We haven't even had a chance to take a look at different funding mechanisms.
Okay.
yet.
Sounds like a great capability.
So possibly Cindy had already compiled a list of some folks that could take advantage of that.
Well, I will have my lieutenant go talk to Cindy because
Great.
if we know how many possibilities we have now, we know what to look for,
Sure.
what we to have.
Great. All right. And I have nothing reported from recreation, and let's see, take over for his report.
Thanks, Jackie.
Evening.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, I'll be brief. So as you may have seen, we had a busy quarter and we were in this room a lot, setting up the hybrid meetings. The TVs were fun to set up, the stands, not so much fun, but we got it done. And we're still actually testing some equipment for that, and hopefully we'll be doing it better soon as well. And Dan may be able to help us with that with his audio background too. One of the big initiatives was to get a regional website contract going through the MOBD grant that we had. We had to get that finalized by June 30th. So that was a big push. And now we're doing a design spec with them for that. And as you may see, there's a little logo there that Caitlin has been working on, and she's got others as well. The website's going to be called Montechusett.tv for our region and cover events and culture from the whole Montechusett region, from about Ayer to Orange. And this will allow us to regionalize and get regional sponsorships and memberships and hopefully be self-sustaining in the future.
And you can hold hands with anybody in the community that wants to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And
Perfect.
part of the MOBD grant was really to help businesses hurt by COVID. So
Yeah.
I've been kicking myself that we haven't had this. And now we have it and can go out and we can offer free business listings. And then if they want to do more in terms of memberships and sponsorships,
Right.
they can do that. So it should be beneficial to us and the businesses. Throughout the region, we can also partner with other access TV stations for shows. It seems like a long time ago, but we did the annual town meeting live stream. And we also restarted community programming and sponsorships. Hannah has been working really hard on production, and Caitlin has done some of the farmers market stuff. We really didn't restart that till January because we were so consumed with Zoom and online meetings. And that seems like an even longer time ago. And typical quarter for us, about 29 meetings. And I just want to reiterate that I received numerous compliments about our staff, especially when I'm not involved in meetings. And they say how Hannah and Caitlin are very helpful.
Now,
I
yeah,
can't
you
say
got a
enough about
compliment, you got compliments from Wayland on your TV.
No way.
Yep.
So that's very heartening, and maybe I need to be offered more meetings so they can compliment them more. And I just doing some social media metrics. That stuff is, they're not reliable, but that was just a snapshot of one day of a month to get, almost 6,500 people in reach. And the YouTube views are up again. They've been up, and popular videos, the select board meetings cracked the top 5. And Songbirds of the Northeast from 2017 still rules in the spring because people want to hear, check out the bird calls. And Tonka toys, almost up to 10,000 views. So it's always interesting to get that. So thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you for you.
And
No.
you're working on the senior center and Boston Post Cane
Yeah,
video.
Hannah's working on that, and that should be ready next week.
Yeah, I think that would be one that will crack your top 10 or top 5.
I'm sure.
Just a point to back up what Tim has mentioned at a couple selectmen's meetings, is I was reading an article in the State House News about the extension of the hybrid meeting and the stuff that we had during COVID, and how a lot of these small towns in Western Mass now, they will, they have a conundrum finance-wise and technology-wise, because they don't have a TCTV type of thing. They're basically on their own, but they had to scramble to find somebody in town or hire somebody to do their Facebook Live. A lot of towns are doing just phone call in because they don't have the access that we have. So this extension has been kind of a good thing where people can, if they don't want to go meet in person, they can do it online, but they have the challenges money-wise, equipment, personnel, and so forth, to make that happen. So again, Templeton is extremely lucky and kind of leading the way, at least, especially in Western Mass, as far as doing all the meetings, all the remote stuff, and some of the stuff that I think, as quick as it was done, that Steve and his crew pulled out of the back pocket to make all this stuff happen.
Yeah.
So we are out in Western. There are a lot of other small towns that were really just, they're still there on the phone,
Yeah.
or they got to set up a Zoom meeting account, and they're, like I said, they're figuring it out as they work. They didn't have the support that we had.
Yeah.
We're fortunate that.
I know that there are the annual MMA conference. They wind up talking about awards in many different categories. I'm pretty happy with how Templeton is kind of pulled together. Maybe not as much as we could justice, but TCTV is a shining example, I think, of how we really dialed up our game. And I would love to be able to look at, how can we participate with external awards or even collaboratives. So if someone needs to look at that and what we've done, we can say, here are our best practices. Not to add anything to your schedule or otherwise, but basically take what we have already and say, let's package it. We do an annual report. We're just packaging the information that we've already processed all year long. We're just putting it in a way that makes sense to somebody external who says, oh, this is what my town's government's doing for me. But like Jeff is saying, to try, or I'm reacting to what Jeff is saying about what a good job we've done. Let's advertise that. Let's see if we can't, grab an MMA Emmy or whatever they call
Oh, yeah, good
them. That's-
idea. Huh.
I know a lot of, several communities are interested in using Meeting Owl. I think Belmont uses it. They're big advocates of it. And, some are still trying to figure out, okay, what is it? How do we use it?
Right.
We're getting there. And I'm blessed with a dynamite staff.
Yes, you are.
You are.
So Sheila Pelletier couldn't be here. She sent her report. She's attended a couple of trainings. She handled the placement of 900 flags on Memorial Day or for Memorial Day. She continued to support the Food for Vets program over at the Legion. She's working with some nonprofit veteran organizations to develop partnerships. And she's starting to work on creating a 4th of July and Veterans Day program. And the Cultural Council reports that they met once this quarter to discuss modifications to some of the programs that weren't able to take place because of COVID. They did a couple of concerts for Cinco de Mayo at the high school, and they had their big Lucy Stone tea. In Virginia Strahan, a resident in town, portrayed Lucy Stone, and it was really nice. And the Historical Society and some of the Catholic churches in the area assisted with that. So that was a nice program. And that's all they submitted.
Thank you, Jeff.
Of course.
I apologize to the senior center because I left the papers on the kitchen table, but Gail Noel had taken the time to write down all the volunteer hours and the hours that Cindy put in. So all the calls that came in under different categories, I know Tim has it in an email. They all came in under different categories. So how many came in, how many needed follow-up care, and how many hours were set, and this is even during COVID, and they saved the town over $9,800 with their volunteer hours and their, yeah.
The senior center was closed for an entire fiscal year, the way the pandemic worked out and things were closed. That their highlight, they were having like 1,100 contacts a month that were all being done behind the scenes remotely. That is just phenomenal. And that speaks, as I've said so many times before, the invaluable input by the volunteers we have in town. They're predominantly a volunteer-run organization.
And not to be a negative Nelly, but there was a comparison to the previous year, and it was knocked out of the park exponentially, infinity high.
And I think these guys are being pretty diligent
team.
about, you know, recording those things and having people scan their thing in and, you know,
I definitely saw that. Everyone was hard.
yeah.
I saw Kate, you know, making sure that people were
And
scanning.
part of that was for COVID trade.
True.
Yep.
So, good stuff.
We've got innovative, you know, that's a word that I would like to stress. During 2020, we had to innovate. So, you know, not like anything bad or, you know, like you were saying, it's because we were pressed and we had to innovate and figure out how do we maintain our relationships and our collaborators. And we did a great job doing that. And we can only improve. So I think that we need to document that and make sure that we can improve on all that success.
Yeah, the synergy's good.
I'm gonna ask my vice or the town administrator. In the past, we haven't accepted reports like a motion to do it. There's not a necessity to do that because they're just basically coming in. Okay, you're all set. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, next on the agenda, we've got the finance team and however you want to see it. Kelly, Luann, or Cheryl, whoever wants to go first.
Usually Kelly does.
Okay, hi Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Oh. Nope, you're not off mute. Not yet. Did you get a little, did you get a notification? I'm asking you to unmute. Do you see something that's popping up? Okay, Kelly's going to be doing her report in sign language.
Can we read lips too?
Luann or Cheryl, if you go first, if it's all right, if she comes in on volume, that's fine. At least she can stay off mute, but either one of you wants to go first.
Okay, I'll start.
Yep, just make sure you speak up for the owl.
Sure. This year was, anything is challenging as far as getting. We're able to, people at the door, set up appointments for them to come in, so processing through town hall in general, we were still able to stay in contact. So that worked out well. We were able to process an additional motor vehicle maintenance this quarter. IRB rolled out a new Atlas program this year. There's a lot of bugs in it. The big commitment did go out in February, but they held off on doing one in March. So we got hit with an extra May. So that was a bigger one to the town.
Luann, was that different? Was it different software or a new version of the same?
Different software. It's a whole new program they
Okay.
rolled out. So, yeah, so it's been challenging. It's been challenging with town offices, but, the bugs are starting to work out. So we're a little delayed on the excise going out. Actually, we took commitment 2 and 3 and put it into commitment 2. So that brought in over like another $230,000 worth of billing in this quarter for us from motor vehicles. You get equipment like that, we also processed a lot of abatements in the office, which over 85 were processed with over $10,000 of abatements going back in that amount. Community preservation, I had to send in paperwork to the state. The net money that was committed to community preservation this year was just under $210,000. So that's what was committed, what we abated for exemptions. So the town $10,000 this year. Preservation funds. Also this year, it was challenging for people that got exemptions because they couldn't come into the town office. So most of ours, we mailed out exemption applications to all residents that got them the prior year.
So it did bring in over 172 exemptions that we did this year for the town, taking $93,000 off the overlay. That's a little less than we had last year. Last year, I think I had about 103,000. So we did reach out. Some people just didn't come back. So that was a little shorter. Also through our tax billing, we had to file of all the 4,200 plus real estate bills we sent out for property tax. I got 5 abatement applications in my office, 4 which my board approved and 1 which we denied. So it just came about $2,700 off of our tax revenue coming in. Also, 2 personal property abatements were filed. 1 was approved and 1 was denied, and that was just a little over $130. So people understand their taxes once you talk to them. You know, they're pretty agreeable on what happens. We were able to do the conversion from Vision, my real estate program, into Vadar billing. So we were able to send the files over to Cheryl. So our bills for the preliminaries did get into her office the end of June, so that they did go out on time for July 1st billing. So that was a good plus. Just this quarter alone in the building department, there was over 104 building permits pulled. So that's 3 month time. There's over 104 pulled. And of those 104, over 13 of those were new constructions that were permitted to people. So not only do we go out and check building permits as far as the decks and siding and new rooms and everything else, we're, prime example, Turner Lane, from March to June, we ended up going out and measuring 9 brand new houses that were coming onto the tax roll. So construction right now is still crazy in town. But we're still doing it. And the only other thing is cyclical inspections. Like you guys all know, every 9 years, our office is required to visit every single property in town. So what I try to do, and I try to keep it in-house. We brought it in-house last time and we literally saved over $100,000 because we do pull it in office. So we've already done Baldwinville, we've already done Otter River. Sue, my assistant, is feet running in East Templeton right now. She does a great job. She wanted to do it instead of us having to hire somebody out, which works out nice. I mean, she works her hours and maybe a few more. So that's doing good, and we should be done with East Templeton probably by the end of this year, which leaves me just Templeton, the precinct, what I call of Templeton left to do. And I have actually till 2025 to get Templeton done. So our plan is to get it probably done 2 years ahead of time, which should be great.
Do those rotate? You basically phasing them in, or do you have a start and end point and then accomplish that over a number of years?
We have 9 years to do it all. So
As
like
long
all
as
those-
it's the end, gotcha.
Right, as long as we
Understood.
get all 9 done.
Yep.
I mean, all.
A phased approach, got it,
Exactly. So like I say, we're in phase 3 of
got it.
4. So yeah, so that's my office. If you got any questions?
I do. Is that okay?
Mhm.
So I've been looking at the master plan and I'm questioning how the growth and the new builds and stuff fit in. Is there like a cap on our growth? I don't understand the master plan completely and I'm getting my questions ready for Adam to help me with it.
Okay, so usually every year Adam will come, previously Carter would come and say, what are you expecting for new growth? So he can add it into the revenue sheets of the budget for the next year. We are very conservative in the office. We don't like to say it because anything you get above and beyond your new growth figure is certified as free cash. So I think this year I had recommended $70,000. And right now on my books, I've probably got over $245,000 I'm going to be submitted to the state for new growth for this year. Which is great this year. Master plan, you're gonna have an extra, what is that, 175,000 coming in to be certified as free cash for this year.
So,
You know, so it's nice, but I wouldn't guarantee it next year. Like I say, construction's crazy and I've probably done about 25 new houses this year.
so maybe I'm asking the wrong department. Like I'm concerned about capacity for the school and how the growth lines up with the capacity of the town and our services.
That's
You
not
get that?
new growth really.
If there's a cap on how many new houses.
Yeah, if there's a master plan, like I was looking at the school and I'm trying to understand, it says it can't handle more than this, 70 to 90% growth. It can't handle more than that. So I'm thinking with all the new builds, with all the people moving in, our sewer capacity, water capacity, and again, I'm making my questions to take to the right people to get an answer, because I know that one of them, I think it was either water or sewer, and I believe it was water, it looked like we might have to expand it. It was like 0.84% or something that, but I'm so new at this, but I'm interested, and I want to be able to, if we need to, we've had moratoriums in the past where our growth was exceeding our capacity, and we don't want to do that.
Not actually, planning board is the board that would put moratorium.
Yeah, that's the one who made the,
Exactly.
that's the one who
So
made the master plan. It started in 2011, was finalized, revised in 2016, and finalized in 2017. And it's on page 25 and 26, in case anybody wants to know.
But I would urge you, if, like, you know, to consolidate your questions, because then you'll be able to unify your interest
Yeah.
by going to that board or otherwise, or asking Chris Casavan or the school committee.
Oh, it's not, it's specifically the school, it's the town in general,
Yeah.
the water,
But if it was like a school
Sewer,
thing, just,
the school.
Chris knows those numbers up and down, sideways on what he can handle and class load and otherwise. So the consolidated approach, I would definitely just put together, you know, your list to say, how are these dependencies on another? And then Luann's data is just a part of that.
Yeah.
But excellent questions.
Thanks, Luann.
You're welcome.
All right, either Cheryl or it looks Kelly. Nope.
Okay, I can go.
Kelly, I couldn't hear you, so I'm gonna ask Cheryl to go.
Yep.
So this quarter, we had the same bills that go out every quarter, property tax and excise commitment and the water and sewer. So we had all those, and like Leanne said, we released a second commitment in May. That was a combined excise. Same thing, 232,000, there were over 450 bills. That was pretty sizable for that commitment where it was combined. The unpaid excise bills for the first commitment were mailed out and sent to warrant. The deputy collector during the quarter. Demands were mailed on any unpaid real estate or property tax. I had over 500 unpaid accounts. Demands were mailed to those people. As of today, I have 144 left. That's about $127,000 in tax. No interest or fees added to that. Those are the ones that I will have to advertise the tax title, so I'm probably gonna send another letter out to these people before, because it's gonna be a lot of money for the advertisement.
Yeah.
So I'll probably send out another
127 worth,
144 as of today.
144 worth.
So last year, I think it was about $65 per.
Wow.
So I'll probably send out another letter before I advertise, just to try to get that number down, hopefully. The preliminary bills went out on time for the first and second quarter. Bills are due Monday, so if anybody hasn't paid their bill yet, first quarter preliminaries are due on Monday.
Yeah, it's on the message board all around town.
Yeah, I'm still getting people calling that they realize. We prepared 145 MLCs this month, of this quarter. I participate every week. Beta has been doing an informational Zoom, and I've been participating in those most of the week. I did Cape Conference that I usually go to. They did it a Zoom in a consolidated form. And so I did that, was okay. Better in person. I think you learn a little better, but it was, at least it was something. Collections for the quarter, real estate was 2,950. CPA taxes was 452,000. Personal property, we had 29. Excise, we're at 230. Tax title, we had 30,000. Tax title, we knocked off quite a few of the last years that we did advertise. I don't have a lot left from last year, which is good. But I think the sales have helped. I've sent out a few letters. People realize that it's there and they do have to pay it.
Right.
In the meals tax for the quarter, we had 13,839. So that's not bad for COVID and King-Lo and getting back on track. It's still, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I think we were averaging 12, so we're
Yeah.
over average.
So, I mean, I don't think that was too bad.
Okay.
Yes, Kelly, anybody have any questions?
I have one, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering what do you accept for payment because we did have a gentleman come into the Board of Selectmen recently to a meeting and was concerned that when he overpaid, he got refunded.
We do
I
refund, yeah.
feel like that's ridiculous, in my opinion. If someone overpays their real estate tax, can't you kick it on to the
We
next
can't, it's a fiscal year,
quarter?
so
But you can put it into your quarterly next
the next
payment,
quarter I can.
but that hasn't occurred apparently, right? Because that's why that gentleman had come in, and I apologize, I don't.
Francis.
Thank you,
Noel
Noel
Francis,
Francis came in and was very concerned that if he overpays his real estate tax, he gets a refund. He was also concerned, as am I, as a resident. I came in one time personally to pay and can't use a debit card.
Right.
This is really inconvenient for so many people, including myself. I was like, well, you know what? I can't figure out your online payment. Did a PayPal, it floated out into space on one of my real estate taxes. It truly did. Had to find that. And then I just said, okay, I'm done. I'm coming in with cash quarterly. So can we correct that? Can we look at
So what
a
was the-
system to
It
correct?
depends on what his overpayment was.
Well, no, my thought is like
You can pay a
payment
year.
wise,
You can pay it for a year.
we should be able to pay it.
No,
We can't pay for the year
Quarterly.
because.
fiscal, right.
Fiscal year.
Right.
Yeah,
Fiscal year.
that's
So if you
running.
come up to June 30th and you've got a credit on your account.
But they don't
sorry to
put
interrupt
credits.
you, Cheryl. Cheryl. If you, at the end of fiscal year, June 30th, Cheryl's got credit accounts on her balances. Legally, Mass General Law, she has to refund any of that money because it's committed money, it's too much money, and it's got to get off the books and it's got to go back.
Or else we would owe interest.
Come July 1st, if you want to come in and pay for a full year, have at it. Go ahead and pay it all at once. have
We don't know
people right
how.
now paying
No,
two
no,
and
we
three.
can't pay for the quarter.
Or with what?
Right, not the full year.
But the first two quarters. But legally, she can't go into a new fiscal year and roll that money. into
Right, and
next
I
year's
don't,
bill.
I don't think that was his request, but we would have to look at that.
He was
I'll look-
talking about
yeah.
state laws.
Right, so-
He was
Yeah.
looking more at the
When you get
state
your
law.
2 quarter bills, you can pay both quarters at the same time. But we don't know what the full year is gonna be until
Right, it
December.
has to be adjusted.
So,
Okay,
yeah, so we can't just keep taking money in. She's committing a balance to me. So first and
Right.
second quarter gets committed. She says, okay, first and second quarter's out, you need to collect $100,000. That's what I can collect. Once the third and fourth quarter comes out, she commits, here's how much you have to collect. Then I can collect that amount. But if I don't know how much your bill is, I don't want to just I can't keep taking money that hasn't been committed to me. It's how much we put out there. The bills that are there is what I can collect. So they can pay both quarters at the same time.
mhm.
I can't take additional after that point because it hasn't been committed to me. So I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Because if I may, Chair, because July to December, you know what the tax rate is, but you don't know what the tax rate is January 1, because you gotta do this municipal tax recap thing, because what people voted to spend their money on at town meeting.
Right.
And that's where their tax rate is gonna come from. But you can't, how you gonna take money? The tax rate went down, or the tax rate went up.
Right.
I don't
Hey,
think that was
you
his concern.
owe me a couple $100.
It
You
wasn't.
prepaid and
So
the
we're
tax
off
rate
the
went up.
And,
So I get July to December, but they can't pay
Okay.
January because they don't know how much the bill's gonna be.
Right.
Right.
So it's protocol.
I mean, I can look it up and see what happened, but without.
Yeah,
knowing
I mean,
where
I
we
can't
wanted to
recall.
pay and-
I think the frustration, there's two ways of looking at the frustration of this. Is someone pays their first quarter bill and they paid you an extra, I don't know, $15. I'm using an example. And you don't put it onto their second quarter
Well,
bill
that's where it would
and
go.
you send it back to them. I think people are like questioning that.
I wouldn't send it back.
I got that impression,
Fiscal
but
year.
he might have been at
I have
different
his
quarters.
letters. He just
Right,
wanted
and
us to talk to the.
Okay.
The
Well, never
refund would
mind.
only go out at the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
So once the fiscal year's closed and we know, okay, he overpaid by $15, he would get a refund check. But not during the year. If he overpaid during the year, that $15, it sits on his account to go apply against the next quarter
It doesn't apply.
until the end of the fiscal year.
Yes.
Then any overbalance will be refunded. We only refund once. You overpay by $10, I don't keep mailing out checks during the year.
Right.
It's at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then how can we do a more friendly way of payment?
I mean, I've looked into
Have we
getting
looked
credit
into
cards. The expense is, it's costly for them.
Yeah.
And it's gonna have to be passed on. And, you know, we can't eat that cost.
I could hear you, Kelly, by the way.
So how do we pay our taxes is my question. Some of the residents in town would like to know how they pay their taxes. Do they pay with a personal check? Do they pay with a money order? Do they pay with cash? There are questions out there.
All three.
Is that all that you
You can pay
accept?
online, you can drop it in the Dropbox, we take mail. People are, they can put it in their own mailbox and the mailman will pick it up. We're so many ways for them to pay. They could call and we can meet them outside, but cash, check, money order,
Cash, check,
online
money,
with the credit card.
and online?
Yep.
And you
Now-
trust PayPal?
Now, I could say on the online, if you do it as like a debit from your account, I believe, Cheryl, isn't it like a quarter or $1 fee? But if you use your credit card, they charge you a percentage based on your tax bill. So, you know, the difference of using your debit card is if you put in your checking account, it is cheaper to do it that way.
I think it just went up to 50 cents to match the cost of the stamp. But I
Okay.
think it was a quarter. I believe it's 50 cents now.
Yeah.
To match the.
Credit-
Yeah, I think it-
Credit card
50 or
companies
50,
cost
yeah.
Yeah, so if
money.
you
Yeah.
take cards in the office and you see what it charges you online, now that cost is gonna come back to the town and the town's gonna have to pay for that credit card. So that's one of the reasons why we don't take the credit cards in town hall, because it's not cost effective technically to the town.
But we don't take debit as well.
No,
No,
no, it's too.
It's,
Some
That
debit cards
that
are
will
more
cost
expensive
as
than-
well.
yeah.
Yes.
and
Right,
even
'cause it's
someone more.
the MasterCard or Visas runs
Right,
that
it
service.
depends.
Okay.
Yeah, American Express
Yep.
is expensive, yeah. It is
Thank
very
you.
costly.
I
yeah.
appreciate that.
I looked into it a couple times and
I was just curious.
we're gonna have to go there eventually, but it's,
Well, yeah, I'm not sure why we're not going there,
Yeah.
but I can understand,
Yeah.
you know, cost wise, you're looking at the
Yeah.
cost, I guess.
we have to pass it on, yeah.
Yeah.
As
All
long
right.
as they knew that, you know, upfront, that's.
This is the,
But
you know,
knowing
the
that too,
discussions that we
that's-
have about other towns, that would be interesting to find out, like, what are the other services that are out there? Not from a, hey, look at them, but if someone else has cracked the code on opening
The
up
expense
that,
of it.
so we're
and
not
opening-
charged, then that would be worth it.
I'll look
Yeah.
into that. I'll take that on.
And I've looked into
Yeah, what was the
Dropbox,
sidebar?
too.
I'm sorry, what was the sidebar?
We take credit and debit for our fire permits, but the percentage is done right through Unibank.
Correct. It's absorbed someplace.
It is absorbed by
But
someone.
the person paying it does it, you know, it'll tell them how much the percentage is, if it's a percentage of the transaction, or if it's just a set fee of the transaction. And like they said, if they pay by their checking account, it's like a 25 cent, 50 cent charge, but if they pay by Visa, it's a percentage. If they pay by MasterCard, it's a set fee. So, but it
But
all
you take them in your department,
online,
correct?
not in my,
Online.
not in the office.
Online.
Okay, and you.
Online. And they,
Yeah, we
and the
think
customer,
same thing.
and the customer pays that. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't think
They
it's that
pay it.
difficult online.
Any other questions for Cheryl?
Oh, I actually had one for everybody. Is there a difference between Unibank and Unipay? Because the rec does
That's the same thing.
Unipay. So you're doing Unibank and Unipay, same thing?
Unipay is technically the online form. Unibank is the bank.
Oh, okay, good.
That's just their
I
online.
think part of
system.
the thing about town is we want to streamline everything. So every department and every commission or committee is on Unibank, Unipay,
Okay. There's a, I mean,
rather than have
there's a
separate.
lot on there.
Right, well,
Yeah.
that's, Department goes
Light and
through
water
there,
is on
sewer
there.
department goes
Yep.
through there.
Yep.
His fire permits go through. I mean, real estate, personal property, motor vehicle, all is through UK.
Yeah, they kind of got it, the market cornered for municipal
they do.
thing.
Yes, yeah, they
Yep.
have it.
Any other questions for Cheryl? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much, Cheryl. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Kelly,
Okay, sorry about that. I had to change computers. It was dying and the mic won't work on the other one. Didn't know that.
Keep going.
Okay, so the fourth quarter, again, was staffing challenges in my office. Nicole had come back, but she then took a different job where she could work remotely. So she's now moved to Florida. And I hired Lisa. Lisa has started and she's been with me about almost 2 months. You know, she's a trooper. She's come at the hardest time of the year, but she's making progress every little bit. But again, with, you know, the extra training and the, you know, her not being here, that I've gotten behind again, but I'm getting back on track. So I wanted to let you know the reports that I've given you tonight for the revenue and the expenditures are not finalized. There's a couple more things that I need to do and a couple more things that Cheryl's working on, that we just couldn't get everything to align to get them finished for tonight. So once you get, you know, once I get those completed, I will send those out finalized, and I will also notate any changes so that, you know, people don't have to examine every single number to see what changed. And I don't expect it to be very much, if anything. So on the expenditures, the departments did very well this year. There was no one in a deficit situation. So everyone really did well with their budgets. We can applaud the department heads. They did really good job this year, especially with COVID and all the other challenges that we had. There's just 2 line items that I know will stick out that, you know, will be questions. So I wanted to bring these up. The debt interest, there was an over budget of an item. So there is a remaining balance in that will be taken care of with the recap. The other one is the other benefits. That's always a huge concern because there's always such a surplus there. What I wanted to bring to your attention is a couple different things. If you have one employee that covers the family plan for a year, it's $20,000. That's the town's cost. And so at 118 left, that's only 6 employees. And at each fiscal year we've had for the last few years, we've had people that we've had empty positions that we get somebody in, you know, they stay in, they quit, they leave. This person may come in and they don't need insurance. This person didn't get insurance before. Now the new person we hired, they need a family plan. We have to have enough money in that account to cover all of those situations. So if it was an idealistic world in, you know, for a fiscal year where everybody was employed, you know, where they're supposed to be, everybody stayed for the 12 months, we would not have this much of a surplus. I know in the light and water department, they had a period of time where they were missing an employee this year. You know, that's another hit that we took, you know, because of the balance. So I just wanted to, I know that that's always a bone of contention and turmoil. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that it is because of staffing, you know, and things that happen. The revenue, we were at 103% of our budget for the year, which, you know, is just amazing with COVID and how everything worked out this year. Our personal property was at 105% because that includes also the prior fiscal years that we took in that were still owed. The real estate was at 99%, and excise is 117% because that also includes all the prior years' money that we've taken in this fiscal year, you know, that we weren't expecting to get. You will see on the very last page of what I sent you, the special articles report. That's all that report gives you every special article we have and its status. after my discussions with the departments and with Adam, you'll see at the very bottom that 33,782.05 will be closed back to free cash. And the rest of that will be carried forward into the next year for continuing appropriations. So if you have any questions on any of those, let me know. I'd be more than, happy to discuss, why we're closing it or why we're keeping it, or any of those types of questions. And pretty much that's all I have. Do you all have questions for me?
Kelly, the 33,782 is just for the Article 5 items?
No, it's the ones that are highlighted that you can see that are closing to free cash. Those are the projects that there is some remaining balance, but they are completely finished. So
Copy,
that,
thank you.
yeah.
And what's the number under that, please?
Sorry, it didn't. $426,611.32.
Thank you.
And a big one of that is the is it the Stone Bridge one? That's 200,000 that we're still that's still in the works with that. The Main Street Bridge.
Both for study. Engineering. Any other questions for Kelly?
Jeff, you don't have one?
I will email you them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, Kelly, thank you very much. Thanks to the finance team. Very much appreciate it. All right,
Take care.
next up,
Good to see you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Good to see you, too.
Enjoy.
Take
care, Kelly.
all right, next on the agenda is Public Works. Mr. Soza, how are you?
Good, thank you, board and members. Last quarter for 21 on the highway department, we had a late season snowstorm in April that we're gonna hopefully try to squeeze through and burn off. Gonna work. So we ended up plowing, treated, and then had all kinds of puddling and flooding. Crews have been repairing many potholes and fixing berms. Sinkhole is repaired on Lord Road. Apron repair was done on South Road. Crews have been street sweeping, cleaning out catch basins, been flushing pipes using the sewer department's jetter. Cut trees along the roadside, chipping, and spring cleanup from the winter debris. The phase of signs will be going up shortly. They're all in now as we speak. So hopefully within the month, they'll be out. Have had some issues, a few locations with beavers, and still having problems with a couple of locations with beavers, working with Lori and her department. Did find a trapper that took forever. So this week we're going to meet again. That's pretty much wraps it up on the highway department.
No, bring them somewhere else, I think. They trap them and bring them somewhere else. Relocate.
On the buildings and grounds, again, a late season storm. They assisted us in plowing and sanding the town buildings and cemeteries, walkways. Completed and did several burials, assisted several patrons with cemetery plot purchases, assisted other locating graves and helping understand the cemetery rules. Crew member took care of the flag duties, which were many. Flag for Memorial Day were placed on graves for the Veterans Service and the Boy Scouts that Sheila did. Clean up the trash and removal and being done in the building week. Flat markers and foundations were done for upright stones that continue to be installed. The front lawn at the police station needed to be replaced. They assisted the PD and their crew in removing that. Who's worked on a new section of Pine Grove Cemetery, which is pretty much completed. It looks real good. We're getting about 66 more lots over there, which was more than well needed.
Mhm.
We had minimal lots left. On top of that, if I can add, we're gonna be, chapter 90 got approved from the state. I didn't think we were gonna be able to do anything this year because I don't know why they were late, so. Starting next week on Hospital Road, the backside, Bridge Street, and we're gonna be replacing some cross culverts, and in the following week, they'll come in and reclaim that section. I do have a message board over there, pre-warning the residents and businesses, and I spoke to the businesses up there today when the work's gonna be performed, when the actual paving will confirm with me, I'll put it on the message board,
Okay.
and they have my contact.
And tie in with social media as well. Please.
Following the Hospital Road, we're gonna be moving to Hubbardston Road, which, once I get closer and get more of a date, I'll be having a message board
Okay.
on Hubbardston Road, so I'm gonna be following a couple of those message boards. I'm using the old one on Hospital now. And along with that, Phillips is gonna be closing that bridge down on Beverly Road on that side, which is coming up shortly. I'm gonna get together with Rick Penny. August 16th, so he's asking if we would put a message board up on our Reddit in town, pre-warn people that it's gonna be coming real soon, which we'll probably do for a couple of weeks, just so the public or the viewers know what's gonna be happening in the next few weeks. That's about all I got.
Okay, right there. I just had a question when you mentioned Gilman Waite. I know that they're in that quarter, we identified there was like a unsafe fence. Have we mitigated that?
Yes, well, it's much better. We had a tax work-off person on come to the highway building grounds. That was his first 2 days. He went around, re-secured all the fencing on all the pipes. It is much better. It is safer, but there's still areas where it's all stretched out. It's the pipes have been. We pretty much did the best we could with the wiring. I ordered the right wiring, so it should last and hold up when we put extra bands on.
Right.
Because they hang their backpacks and everything else on it, so.
Right.
It should work. I used to have a porta potty over there that's been vandalized several times and abused, and the owner of the porta potty was either gonna start charging us for repairs. I just told her I'm not going to take it out. Kids don't want to respect having a porta potty over there. So we pulled it out a week and a half ago. And if there's a tournament, they rent their own anyway, so.
Okay.
It's too bad.
What was the company?
The one that the town was renting was from Sheldon.
Scottish?
No.
No.
Sheldon.
Weird, that's in
Sheldon's.
town, yeah.
It was a handy one, so.
Okay.
They were breaking in the cones, gravel, filled the hopper. It's too bad.
Yep.
You have a nice facility and whomever, you just can't find something constructive to do. You just get-
Right, and
Right.
the town bought.
Whatever signs you put on it, they're just gonna bypass it and throw something in there.
Sometimes it's not even kids in town or people in town. Sometimes it's
The town bought one years before I came here. I don't know how old it was. But that got vandalized and ripped apart enough where we cut it up and disposed of it. I'm not gonna get into the whole wide business.
Bob, thank you. Any other questions?
I just have a question on the police department one. That building was completed relatively recently. Is there any way we can back charge the contractors on that, or does that fall under any kind of a warranty?
The general contractor was in charge. I don't know. All that was originally done before my arrival. I stepped in the very end of it. And I think it was timing when they planted grasses, so we should probably see that. It looked real lousy.
Like hydro seed or something, they just give it a once over.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was. but
Yeah, we're seeing that in my area.
So my foreman basically worked with a few of the patrolmen, kind of down the drag lots and regrading and adding some additional room that originally came from that area. Regraded it, and JD landscape over here had to see it. And it did have get a couple of washouts, but I don't know if they'll come back and top it off. You know. I don't know if we could go after them or not.
It's just a question. I don't know either. But
Our time is downtime. We haven't spent up on material. It's just employee time over there probably for a day and a half.
If it was in the scope.
They'll check with town council if it's another matter we're addressing.
I mean, if you find, come up with a bill for tractor labor, absolutely. But something to be looked at.
yeah, I just anticipating I would expect the lawn to last us more than 2 seasons.
But I really never even had a lawn.
Yeah. Duly noted.
Anything else for Bob? All right, building and ground, all set. Thank you, Bob. All right, that is it for reports this evening.
That is it.
Okay. What's that? Okay, next up, we've got our update on the wage and classification study. I know that we had a one-pager in here, and online tonight, we've got Don Jacobs.
That is
Adam or Don, if you'd like to walk us through that.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Bob.
What we have is Don Jacobs here to provide an update. The department heads, Holly spent a lot of time putting together materials back and forth. Don, if you kind of want to just give an update, I know you sent the draft descriptions out of the employee job descriptions. Do you hear us?
Hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I think Adam, I believe you gave the board a copy of the proposed study as far as goal and objectives. Do they have that with them?
They do.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I like to give that to you. You know, the purpose of the study, as it says, the goal of the study is to develop a process to pay positions, and secondly, pay employees. And I think the two key standards, and there you have the chart in front of you, to do this fairly, which really means consistent. And by consistent, I mean you can explain how the compensation process works. And then the other standard is to do it equitably. And by equitable, I mean competitive. So with those two criteria, or two standards in mind, what we've proposed to do is to develop a process that really basically addresses competitiveness both internally within the town of Templeton and secondly, externally in comparison to the marketplace. And I don't think any of that is surprising to the board, keeping in mind that the way the town currently pays positions and pays employees basically is done in different ways, depending upon what employee group you're talking about, whether it's a collective bargaining group or a non-union position group. The point being that one of the fundamental problems that we're trying to address is to develop a process that really makes the distinction between paying a position and paying an employee clear and understandable, so that everyone understands how this process is intended to work. And in order to do that, as you can see listed here, there are 3 specific things that we propose to do, or what we call objectives, and you see them listed there. Writing an accurate job description really means 2 things. Describing today where an employee spends the bulk of his or her time, And secondly, describing what the minimum qualifications, which leads me to also mention to the board that there is a law now on the books called the pay equity law, which basically says that towns, public and private employers, need to be able to establish a process to determine whether positions are being paid equitably, not just based on market data, but based on what the law calls comparable value. And that's what we mean by minimum qualifications. Those phrases basically mean the same thing. So in writing job descriptions, we're sensitive to the fact that we want to be able to write them accurately, which really means describe the minimum knowledge, ability, and skill that a position requires an employee to have in order to carry out any of their job duties or responsibilities. And where we are at that objective, we've now had employees fill out questionnaires. We've written draft job descriptions and sent them back to each employee and their respective department head or supervisor for them to review and comment on. So basically, the first objective has been completed. The second objective is to develop a classification plan. Adam and I had a chance to meet a couple of days ago, and we're in the process now of developing that grade or a classification plan based on applying a position rating system that basically will enable the town to measure that, what I referred to earlier as comparable value of a position. Again, the minimum qualifications or what you need to know or what ability or skill an employee needs to have to carry out their responsibilities. That ultimately becomes the primary, most important criteria to determine how to pay a position, and obviously in paying a position then to determine how to pay an employee. That will enable the town of Templeton to comply with the pay equity law. And I think it's important for the board to put in perspective, the first two objectives you see there basically don't cost the town of Templeton any money. What those first two objectives are really all about, as I've already said, is to establish a process to enable the town to manage compensation, again, consistent with the two standards that I've already mentioned, fairly and equitably. Okay.
And with employee feedback, which I think is
correct.
fantastic.
That's right. Employees are playing a very active role, starting with filling out the questionnaire. And secondly, as I've already just previously mentioned, giving them an opportunity to review that draft job description. And I think it's important also to mention to the board that as far as employees are concerned, we also focus particularly on the role of your department heads. As managers of their respective departments, we understand that a department head has to plan what a department does and specifically what an employee is required to do. And so it's critically important for department heads to understand their role in the compensation process, again, as it relates to paying a position and secondly, paying an employee. So whether we're talking about a collective bargaining group or a non-collective bargaining, non-union group of positions, the process is exactly the same. Okay, so how we compare positions to one another, once again, I just want to reiterate that we don't rely primarily on market data, which is frankly the way the town has been doing it up till now. It's not to say we're not going to use market data. We will use market data. As you can see in developing a compensation plan, there's three specific aspects to the compensation plan that you'll see when it's presented to you. One is to address the issue of hiring new employees. And again, to do so in a competitive way within a range that will be established within each salary range or grade level for a position. The second aspect of compensation will be to address market equity or competitiveness. In other words, once you've hired an employee, or as you currently retain your employees today, the question that we want to address and answer is, are they being paid quote unquote competitively? And as you'll see, when we present a compensation plan to you, we actually will use three criteria to define the word competitive. One is obviously the market data. Secondly is the rate of pay of the employee. And thirdly, are the years of service that an employee is in their current position. So we use those three criteria to enable us to present a compensation plan that, in our opinion, is quote unquote competitive. And again, competitive means both for the position as well as for the employee. So essentially the compensation plan will show you whether today, in fact, you're paying positions and secondly, employees competitively or not, once again, based on those three criteria that I just mentioned. And then the third issue that we want to address in developing the compensation plan is the issue of retention. And that really speaks to a process enabling employees to receive additional salary adjustments. It's my understanding the town in the past has been paying employees more money basically by a percentage across the board process. That's only one way to pay employees money. What this will really give the Board of Selectmen an opportunity to do, and of course through the board to all your employees, is an opportunity to really discuss different ways to pay employees more money with the intention of trying to retain them. And we'll get to those issues, those three components or aspects of a compensation plan once we've developed the initial classification plan. So from a time frame standpoint, where we're at overall, as I've already mentioned, we've really basically completed the first objective already. The second objective is well underway. And frankly, based on what we've been doing this week, frankly, I expect to have a draft classification plan to be able to present to the board by the middle of next month. Now, the scheduling, the timing, obviously, will work around your schedule, but just to put this in somewhat of a time frame perspective for you. So essentially, by the middle of August, what we want to do is come back and present to the board a draft classification plan, which means grade level structure for your non-union positions. Obviously, your collective bargaining groups already have plans, but again, the process that the town will ultimately use once it's been established for the union positions will be the same as the process for non-union positions, no different at all. So by the middle of August, we hope to present a non-union classification plan to you. All the while, we've started to collect salary data. And as I mentioned, that being one of the three criteria we use to define that we're competitive. Adam has given me a list of communities that the town has surveyed in the past. And we're happy to survey anyone. I think the other thing I just want to mention to the board, oftentimes I think there's a real misunderstanding. It isn't frankly as important who you survey as it is what you do with the survey data once you collect it. So, and when I say we're happy to survey whoever the town directs us to survey, we've also asked employees if they have any opinions, any thoughts, any concerns with regard to how they want their respective positions surveyed. To date, I haven't heard anything from anyone. So anyone that does have any interest and concern, including board members, and not just the Board of Selectmen, but also other appointing authorities that there may be in the town, like perhaps your library board of trustees, if they're an appointing authority. I just don't know off the top of my head. But the point being, if the Board of Selectmen have any comments, thoughts regarding how they would like to see the survey conducted, meaning which communities, our intention is really to try to survey the marketplace on a position by position basis, which is my way of saying to you, we're happy to survey whoever the town would like us to, particularly if there's a community that has a position that you think is comparable to the town of Templeton, and therefore you basically want to know how they're paying that position. So with that all said, Adam, I'll turn it back to you, and obviously I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have. But otherwise, that's what we're doing.
Finish off of what Don said. Our first kickoff meeting, we met with the union folks to bring them into the process. And then as we went through this whole, obviously that was done after we signed the contract, the board authorized that, receiving this state grant of $20,000 is covering all this for us to do. And when Don said he's going to finish that by mid-August, I was like, wow, that's quite a bit of work he's been undertaking. And I know some of the department heads reached out to me, and they're going through all the materials too, but they have all this other work as well. So Don, I give you credit, and I give the folks working on going through the other draft descriptions, making sure the licenses line up and everything else. It's certainly a task that quite a bit of work. I mean, I'll tell you, when Don walked in with that binder of paperwork, I almost fell over. So,
Adam, what is the period of performance for this contract?
3 months, right, Don?
Yes, that's correct.
If I remember
So
correctly.
I mean, I would offer Adam, you know, in terms of what Don was saying and the inputs, make sure you're getting all the inputs that you can. If Don says that he hasn't heard too much, this is obviously, if you go through the third item of the project objectives, this is in, as Don presented it, it's in not only the town's best interest, it's in the employee's best interest as well. So maximum input. Does the advisory committee meet tomorrow? Does anyone know that? You know, whether it's an email or a phone call or something, you know, what Don was just saying, to have some input. They may not be appointing authority, but they may have, they may want to chat about it or otherwise. That's why I asked the period of performance. If, you know, you can't yell about it after the barn door is closed. If we're still within the period of performance and we can, and Dawn gets good constructive information, whether it be the hard data that we need from department heads or those questionnaires that he sent out, or from, you know, other boards within town. And the only thing I would say, let's stick with the comparison. You probably gave the comparison community sheet that we talked through. That is a guiding document that the Board of Selectmen approves to be able to answer these questions. If we need to change that, or we see something has changed, or someone else offers some other information, then we can adjust that document. But that's why that tool exists for comparison communities. And I had nothing else, but I appreciate, Don, taking the time on your Wednesday evening to give us an update on it. Whatever we can do to give you the maximum effort for the info that you need for this study. Any questions for the board?
No, I'd just say rec commission could, you know, use a little input benefit.
I would go back, where are we at? We're about 2 hours in. If someone wanted to go and what, you know, what are we talking about with input? Go to 2 hours into the meeting. And Dawn's questions about how to interact or otherwise are going to be right there. So 2 hours into the meeting, click on there and you're probably going to get the tail end of what Dawn was talking about what kind of feedback you might need or want.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make one last point for the board. So just to reiterate or recapsulize what I've said. So basically sometime during the month of August, when it's convenient for the board, Adam and I plan to come back to the board and present to you a classification plan without dollars and cents. So what you're going to see is a grade level plan, and you'll have an explanation as to how it's been developed and why positions are being recommended tentatively to be assigned to a particular grade level. Once we know that the board is comfortable, and that's the key word I think I want to use with you, and understanding how the process is intended to work, then we'll come back to the board once we've finished collecting market data and come back and show you a combined classification and compensation plan. So it's very much a two-step process. At the end of that second step, basically what we're showing the board at that point is a process to pay positions. Once the board is comfortable with that overall plan, consisting of grade levels and salary ranges, then our next step would be or I should say last step really, is to talk to the board about different ways to pay employees, as I mentioned earlier. When that's finished, when that's completed and the board is comfortable with a combined classification compensation plan, I just want to highlight for the board or emphasize how critically important it is for the board to approve a set of what I call administrative policies. Something the town has not done in the past, describing basically how the classification and compensation process is intended to be managed or to work. Having a set of written guidelines, as I'm sure the board, and I heard earlier this evening when you talk about liquor licenses or any other, you know, financial information, when you have guidelines, laws, regulations, rules to follow, it really that's what establishes the consistency aspect of managing compensation effectively. So I really want to emphasize how critically important it is, once the board is comfortable with a plan, that you then take the time, and we will present to you as part of our final report, a set of administrative classification and compensation policies that really basically do nothing more than put in writing everything we've done in conducting the study. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Once you've approved or initially are comfortable with a classification compensation plan, then what we're going to ask you to do really is the last step in this study is to approve a set of, when I say the word administrative, these are policies or guidelines that don't have to be approved by town meeting. But it's critically important from a continuity standpoint. And I've heard a lot since I've been working with you this, the last month or so about continuity. And you talked about succession plans earlier, I think this evening. And I heard you talk about that. Keep that thought in mind as it relates to compensation. It's one thing to do a study like this, but it's a whole nother thing to take the time and take the step necessary to approve the process in writing so that going forward, you can always change it. When employees change, when selectmen change, whatever the change might be, but at least you have a process in writing that you can share with everyone. It isn't just what you think or I think or an employee thinks. It's what the town establishes as its values, frankly, relative to how you want to manage compensation. Okay, so with that said, just give you a heads up. We are going to give you a set of guidelines, policies that we are going to ask you to review and approve once you've initially approved a plan. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Don. Anything, Don? Adam,
Yep.
you good?
Any other question?
That just means something for Adam to implement. He'll be doing all the.
Well, it's gonna come back to us. We've got, like you said, that two-step
Voted in.
consideration, and then how we want to integrate those policies along with the data.
And who upholds it, Adam? Are we all?
Well, Adam will work jointly with Don, utilizing Don's report.
Yeah.
So they'll come back to us. I'm thinking the end, or we have a meeting on August 11th. I don't know if it'll be ready by then, so probably.
Last meeting of August.
Correct. And then after that. All right. Thank you for the update, Don.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
have a great night. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don.
All right. Elena, thank you so much for being patient. Next item on our agenda this evening is action related to the right of first refusal for the sale of 11 Patriots Road. And then it has everything to do with the chapter 61B classification on the property. Who's leading the presentation on that? Luann, do you want to start off or?
I'm happy either way. We've gone through this once before with someone in Templeton, but
Yep.
I'm selling a property at 11 Patriots Road. It's been in chapter and the town has the opportunity to offer fair market value or what my offer is from the buyer for what's not August 2nd. And so the town has the opportunity to purchase that land if they would like to keep it in chapter. That's my understanding, or if there's anything else.
She's correct. There's 23.34 acres, of which 22.34 acres are in chapter land. You do have the right of first refusal. You have to meet her purchase and sales agreement, which she has sent to you. So I mean, it's up to you to decide if you want to do the right of first refusal. If you agree to sign the right of first refusal, we proceed with sending her a bill for rollback taxes for taking it out of the chapter status.
And I had asked you earlier a question about open space, whether that 61B is part of the open space that we have within Templeton, and the answer to that was no.
No, it's not our town open space. This is just her land that she keeps
Understood.
open for recreational purposes.
I was thinking, Terry, when I asked that question to
Thank
see
you.
how that would affect open space.
Yeah.
And it does not. We don't have I know that we're working towards affordable housing, and we're working with conservation. We've established a trust. There's not enough money in it to do with that. We do not have enough money to offer for that. So I would recommend to the board that we waive the right of first refusal. That would trigger back taxes, and then the new property owner, forgot the last name. Say again? So Van Dyke, and they do not wish to put that into 61B. That's my understanding, is that the proposed seller, I'm sorry, buyer.
Are they local?
Do you know the name? Van Dyke family, yeah, the Van Dyke family.
Just over the border.
Yep. I owned a property up in Winchton, and it was prior Van Dyke property. So,
Right?
huh?
Yeah.
Well, just area landowner.
Mr. Chairman, I move to waive the right of first refusal for the Chapter 61B property located at 11 Patriots Road being sold by Eleanor Ames as presented, and for the board to sign the notice of refusal.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And that's an entire board signature page?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. On the motion for the waiving the right of first refusal for 11 Patriots Road, and for the board to sign the notice of refusal, how do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thanks for being patient with us tonight.
Thank you.
Congrats on the sale.
Yeah, she does have the right of first refusal if you guys will sign it.
Yeah, it's
I
coming
talked
down
to
the-
Holly and she'll be able to notarize everything on Monday and get it all set, so as soon as all the paperwork's ready to go.
She doesn't need it tonight, so we can do it at the end of the meeting.
Whenever, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Wonderful, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, an interesting looking house.
Yeah.
That's been around a while. All right, next item on our agenda
Thanks, ladies.
is,
Safe
good
travels.
night, thank you.
Take care, Cheryl.
Okay, next item on the agenda is action related to amendment number 1 to the financial management policies, adding section I as in India 2, which would be disposition of surplus items. Mr. Lamontagne?
Yes, this will be, this is a draft to come in front of the board. We have a disposition way we've been doing it in town. This is to formalize a policy for us to follow moving forward. Statute states that the municipality should have some set of procedures, policies. I believe it's a procedures, but a policy would be a little bit stronger. And then we could adopt this into our financial management policy coming up, because we have, once we approve this, then we can move to the other items to discuss thereafter with this change we could have towards our policies, and then I could send this off for consistency purposes to our department heads. And I know Bob's been working hard trying to go through the departments to see what items we have that are that we could either sell or have no value, but at least it outlines a clear process for us moving forward. And that's something that we could get some consistency across the board by adopting our own policies.
Is the last sentence standard? Be considered theft and result in disciplinary action. Just the last sentence on page 3. I was just wondering if that was a standard.
I think it's important to have that in the policy.
It is
so people
important.
know.
I didn't know if it was weak or not, because it says may. That was my
depends on
first
the-
impression. I'm just going off my
somebody's
first impression.
borrowed something for a town purpose, it gives the town some leniency on the interpretation.
Okay.
But if it's clear, obviously, that somebody just took a piece of our equipment for personal reasons and didn't return it, yeah, it would be a clear issue, and that would be considered theft, in my opinion.
Thanks. I'm not an expert. I just wanted to hear from one.
So was this an addition, a change based on, I know that the next item, we're talking about how the new system works, but this is just establishing.
This is establishing a set of guidelines for disposition of surplus items.
I'm sorry, how did we do it before then? Carter seemed to be all over it before.
Well, in our policies, we have that we follow chapter 30B, but there's nothing clearly
Okay.
highlighting the
procedure,
the procedures, with what statute wants us to do.
Got it.
Rule, past practice was you're the governing body, or excuse me, you're not the governing body, but you're the executive body for the town, if you will. So it would come to you, and that's the way we did it.
Say what you do what you say. Got it. I didn't see any issues with it.
Would this be given out to everybody to read and have a copy of, or is it up to them to come and, I know you have to
I will email it
enact
out
it,
once the
but
board
yeah, so
passes it.
people will know to read it and follow it.
Correct. I'll say this is
Understand.
adopted by the select board. Please see this financial management amendment for disposition of surplus items. See anything, contact Bob.
Yeah.
Take.
Hey, anyone have any issues or changes within the policy?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the amendment number 1 to financial management policies as presented and for the town administrator's office to add said policy to section I2 of the town's financial management policies.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. On the motion to approve amendment number 1 to the financial management policies, adding section I2 concerning the disposition of surplus items. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes, good job, Adam.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Thank you.
Next item, action related to declaration of surplus items and the designation of auction sales approver.
Now, that was interesting. That's interesting.
So this is, last time we did this a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Bob brought to my attention the way a lot of these towns are doing this. It makes it, streamlines the process, it makes it.
eBay approach.
And if Bob, if you want to kind of speak a little bit about it, I mean, you've been.
Yeah,
working with-
Dave, I know Hubbardston does it all the time. There's several towns that do it this way. I know we used to, the way Carter had it, and I know Carter probably wouldn't be in favor of it. So I'm like.
Because we controlled it. That was like through our
Right.
own distribution and
It was a lot of work between my secretary, Holly, and people coming with a letter to pick it up, sign it. It was time consuming for a lot of the town employees. But this way here, it's gonna be the same. We're gonna advertise in the paper, we're gonna advertise on the town website. An online auction, there'll be a itemized list. This year, thank God, the list is which is progress. The only big things on the list this year for the auction is a couple of senior citizen vans. That's probably gonna be your biggest ticket items. The rest, if you have the itemized list, it's stuff we had in the electronics, file, printers, keyboards. The last 2 years, it hasn't gone away. It kind of wanted to give it a third chance, and then after this year,
Okay.
we'll pay to get rid of it.
And I know,
Quilts.
uh,
Quilts.
well, part
Oh,
of
that-
our policy is, there is a right of first refusal for all town departments.
That was already done.
Okay.
I sent out an email to all department heads. Asking.
No one
if
wanted the
anybody had that's the same as we did with Carter. We reach out to all department heads if anybody has any interest. That lasted a week, come forward, nobody came forward this year. Last year, a couple of them did.
Yeah, so there's a TV on there.
It's
Junk. Okay.
I already looked into it, so.
Yeah.
But
Bob, what's the name of the auction company?
I think is it, you have it at, is it A&G auctioneers or something like that?
And do they take a cut?
They do get a percentage of what's sold.
Okay.
So as the town's responsibility, we're gonna be responsible for advertisement, putting it on the town website. Once it's on the town website, they will have, if they wanna view, come see something, it'll be done during business hours. At either the DPW or the senior center. In the past, we took a Saturday and had staff at each location from like 9 to 3 or 2, which we only got about 5 or 6 people. More people got the list off online.
Mm-hmm.
This way here, what we're asking for is the way we did it before, there was a lot of time lapse. We lost 3-4 weeks.
Yep.
Times you guys voted on an online auction, you're not gonna have bidders wait 2 weeks, you're gonna lose bidders.
Yep.
They're gonna jump on, attack what they want, and they wanna keep it moving and
Yeah.
process, close it out.
You may even widen your customer base.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm gonna still reach out to the people like I usually do.
Yep.
To the auction. It'll be in the paper, so this being the first year, I'm expecting more viewers than what we have.
I agree.
And where the items ain't really big ticket items. And I think it's a good time to try it. We're not gonna lose.
Yep.
So,
And the pros, I know this isn't like an enterprise, but the pro, the cost of this is small concerning the
Right.
amount that we'll actually make from these items, even if we sell some of the big ticket items.
right,
Okay.
yeah, you're not gonna get as much as you did last year, because we, last 2 years for your big ticket items. This year, like I said, it was just the 2 buses, a bunch of electronics, small stuff.
I don't know, sometimes quotes can go for a lot of money,
Wow.
depending on who made them and how old they are.
Bye, man. You know something about the quilts?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
It's actually gonna be, well, I was thinking more along the lines, like whatever we don't sell, will come back to the select board for disposition of those items.
Right.
We'll
Which would be
just donate,
destruction.
So we're good.
So I have first refusal on the quotes.
There's a lot of questions about the quilts. Tell me about the quilts.
The
We
senior-
auctioned, I know.
We have
Now,
crafters
it's
in
interesting.
town.
So
There's
Charlene
crafters
Dancock,
in
who was in here, I know she did a veterans auction for quilts. This is going back a couple years. So I don't know, is it something you can auction off? Are they nice? Or are they like,
Some of the seniors
army
added
blankets?
in, I guess they're short quilts, are not a full quilt. I'm not a quilt person, so
Hmm.
I don't know what
It's
they're
a
worth.
textile, and sometimes if they're handmade and they have a history, they can
Well,
go.
sounds like
The
we've got a
rec
couple of
department
viewers
might want
already.
the surveillance system so we can find out who's screwing up the toilet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Probably, don't.
Textiles.
Probably, you think it doesn't work?
Oh, Julie was asking
It's one
about
of
the
those
surveillance system for the Gilman Way.
We could maybe see if the rec department wants that so they can find out who's messing around with the toilets. No,
No, the toilet's already
the
gone.
surveillance.
So Bob, you have in here, for the last part of that auction, it says that's like a critical time, so the board can either have someone in charge or grant yourself,
Yeah, that was-
or myself to be the responsible for person for the town. Is that the person that closes the deal? Okay,
You're gonna
I
have,
don't wanna
in
do
the
that.
last 24 to 48 hours, somebody's gonna have the yay and nay, so they can finish it out, whether it's a board member, Adam, or a designee.
They have
Who's the
to
right
sit
person
at the
for that?
computer
What-
for that time? Like, did they
who
just-
signed off before? Procurement officer?
The board did, last time, remember, we brought everything here.
You brought
You
everything
voted
to
on
the
it.
board and we voted on it. And
But
Is it
just
enough that we have the
too
list
time
now?
consuming.
But the board could delegate that authority
Yeah,
So
to procurement officer or his designate.
Right,
and what would that require? Sitting
Oh,
in
we
front of
just-
you?
we just gave a policy.
I nominate Mr. Bennett.
I second that.
I'll throw in the beer.
Good comeback.
It's really, nothing's gonna be traded, there's no, it's either, like I said, it's a good year to try this.
Yeah, I agree.
I have faith in any of you guys, Adam.
Section
or
3.
myself.
Yeah, this policy shall be implemented through the town administrator serving as the chief procurement officer or his or her designee. So it's either Adam, I would say, because this policy is basically saying, this is thank you for the identification, that's good. I think that's a good thing that we see how material flows out as we're, concerned about the front side, so the full life cycle part of it, but either you or the designee.
I'll work with Bob.
Okay, but as far as the button clicker at the end, he's managing this process for you. You're not going out there trying to compile this list. So it makes more sense for the button clicker at the end, because that's essentially what we're trying to choose right now is who, based on your memo to us, you're
Right,
saying
right.
it's critical within that last period.
To just
I think it should be Bob.
Would you have to
As a
multitask?
designee.
Like, would you have to
No,
multitask?
no,
Like,
it'll all be on a computer.
yeah,
And as the items close out, the last 24 to 48 hours, all depends how fast the stuff is getting bidded on.
yeah.
Are you or is you or your assistant that's putting that in there?
No, the company's putting a list of.
You send it, but you're the one who's sending it to them.
Right, I'm
Okay.
giving them the yay and nay.
Okay,
It's almost like raising your hand in
Yeah.
on Zoom.
Yeah. Are you comfortable with that then, the request
Yeah.
to?
I'm
to do
setting
it?
the policy.
Oh, yeah.
He's the designee. I like that.
I just want.
Yeah.
Subject matter expert.
Just want to have you on overload.
Class.
Well, I'll throw it out there. We can still talk about it. I move to declare. Let me make sure I'm doing the right one. I move to declare as surplus the items on the inventory list as presented and to designate the town DPW director as the approval of sales bids on the online auction for the sale of the listed items. Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to declare surplus and designate auction sale approver, how would you vote? Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes,
Julie?
Yes.
Tim? Yes. And I vote yes as well. Good discussion.
thank you, Bob.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for trying something new. I know, right? Less stuff
He
to
didn't
worry
ask
about.
for a research. Okay.
I think.
No, he just went to the bathroom. All right, we're gonna move on. Item K, action related to Scout Hall update and removal of debris. Bob, I mean, we've got your memo there. Do you want to,
Yeah.
either or?
Did they see the pictures?
Pictures are in the back,
Yeah,
yes.
Terry, I gave her a walkthrough today.
Thank you for that.
Basically what happened a couple of weeks ago, we checked the Scouts Hall about 3 times a week. On Friday, we checked if they had power. We come back on Monday, there was no power. We had torrential downpours, which put about 5 inches of water in the basement. Our electrician come out. There was power at the meter and to the electrical panel, but nothing throughout the building. The actual breakers rusted and froze, and it was a pretty dangerous situation. So called the light company, they shut the power off. And I spoke with Adam. We kind of had emergency repair of the new service, which it was going to get anyways. So the new service was an old 100 amp. Now you have a 200 amp. And put us back in, put a couple of plugs, one being for the sump pump and one upstairs to finish construction. Since then, there's full of condensation. It's still wet, as you, Terry saw today. $1,500 dehumidifier. I ordered a new ground fault plug for, I believe that's what the problem was, so that stopped working as well. Because it's just so damp. So since I've been here, there's a pile of fluorescent lights. There's a rubbish barrel full of some wire and pieces of pipe. There's some cupboards that Julie had an interest in, as far as refinishing for future use in that building. Whether she wants them or not, they gotta be removed. They need to be put in a garage.
Is this a photo, of one of the cubbies on the side, on its side?
Yeah, they're really
Because
bad.
these are original cubbies for the children.
Right.
Is this one of the cubbies? So are they must be in horrible condition if they were under 5 inches.
Yeah, well, it's not on the side. That's some mold growing up the side of it.
That's what?
That's mold
Oh, growing up.
growing up the side for
Yeah.
it was in contact with water.
The bottom is soaked, you're right, the
Yes, so
bottom
the bottoms
shelves
are
are
just-
soaked
So they're
and
not,
So what my goal is, if you guys think you got set on a pile of gold over there, congratulations. There's some metal stuff, what you go in our metal dumpster, gets emptied and the money gets turned into the lorry. The rest of the stuff will go in the dumpster.
Yeah, it's awful.
My only question was how Julie felt about the cupboards, or
Right, I was.
if they're trashed. I don't know what you'd want to do, Julie. Otherwise, I'm in
Right, I
favor of
mean,
trashing everything else.
You
the
know,
way
they
that you
can
asked
be
them.
preserved, but it's certainly from this photo, it doesn't look like they can be preserved. And no, I wasn't anticipating finding gold in that cellar.
But if you do want us to keep them, they need to be put in the garage. I can't put them over the senior center or anything like that. It's not,
Seemed like a biohazard to
and
me.
other problems, so.
Trash them.
I don't know. It's not my vote, it's not my decision, it's not my project, but I understand the concern. And thank you for reaching out to me personally, because you're aware of the project when it was, going on, so thank you for that.
I would move to dispose of the surplus items listed as having no resale or salvage value and authorize the DPW director to move forward with junking, scrapping, or disposing of such items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? That'd be like an immediate thing or whenever feasible.
Probably get a dumpster or something over there next week or the week after. My goal is to get all the stuff out, get some fans in there, get the air moving around.
Yeah.
Get the dehumidifier going. And start trying it out.
Any other questions, concerns? All right, on the motion for the DPW director to get rid of all that stuff in the cellar, junk, scrap, or dispose, how do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thanks,
Sounds like
Bob,
a
for that
good night
report.
a raise.
Next item, action related to the use of ARPA funds.
Mr. Chair, I leave this to select board member Tom.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, would you have in front of you item 5L, the use of funds? This was a snapshot from the meeting about two and a half weeks ago. And the ARPA fund and all of its legal and guidance released from the U.S. Department of Treasury is a very fluid and constantly changing document. It's to say it's a moving target would be an understatement. But at the time when I compiled this was actually a screenshot off one of the presentations. It was some possible recommendations, what you could or could not do with it. These were the ones that are considered eligible. After all this was done, one of the most interesting pieces of the puzzle that they released to us was we had the fallout money that came through under our non-entity units, where we're one of the, not the 35 or 38 communities who received it directly from the federal government, but it went to Boston and it got pushed back out to us. We've received half of that. There will be a second payment in about 6 months. And that is the American Rescue Recovery Plan Act. One of the interesting things, that's what, 2.4 million, give or take. And you can take that money. We have until the end of fiscal year 2026 to expend it, which actually pushes us well into calendar year 2027 when we close our books for 26. And a strong recommendation, this is what I just wanted to throw out there, we can take the money, put it into an interest-bearing account. We don't have to report any interests earned, but we don't immediately need to start spending down till we can prioritize to figure where should it go. You know, many of these items on the list are very strong potentials and possibilities. There are other venues and avenues that are coming through, and we're starting to see more and more. There's a big push on your infrastructure, upgrading water, upgrading sewer, upgrading cable, upgrading your capabilities. So it's, again, it's a moving target. It was just something to consider. This is what I alluded to at our last meeting. And as promised, I delivered with the piece of paperwork behind it. And one of the big proponents pushing on this, Sandy Puller, who does a lot of work with the MMA, and he's got about 43 years of municipal finance behind him. When he presents, it's kind of the old E.F. Hutton. E.F. Hutton speaks, and everybody sits there and goes. So when he started throwing these things out, it carries a lot of clout because he's done this by the book. He's written a lot of the books. So it actually does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's just a consideration.
Well, first one you got there, Justice started out tonight talking about how do you get through this last aspect? And, you know, you've got respond and recover. So we responded, now we're in recovery. And then we got to look back to the square one again, mitigation, prevention. How do you do that? That first one there, COVID-19 mitigation efforts, getting us structurally ready for it. Another one that caught my eye is provide premium pay for essential workers. So from a municipal perspective, who are the essential workers that kept us going at the senior center? Lori with the health effort, health department, emergency services, all those other things that we had to put leverage on. Is that something that we can use where we can give a kicker? You know, like if they're doing extra things, they're putting together mitigation plans. Can you give premium pay? Can you augment on top of their salaries for, you know, to me, premium pay means you're paying them what they're actually worth, the actual hours that they're putting in.
Or even a
Answering your
stipend
phones.
on top of what. they're normally
Right. I said
receiving.
kicker,
Yeah.
stipend,
No,
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And these are all currently approved uses. I don't think a lot of these are gonna go away. What we may see is a little more tweaking, fine tuning, and they're gonna start turning the thumb screw down a little bit and actually
Yeah.
controlling a little bit more. As it stands, within the last 2 weeks, this is where we are.
Can you legally
And
do
just
that
as
with the
I
money?
said to you, watch this space, it's changing.
Tim, you said that was a suggested use until you figure out an execution plan. Is it legal to put it into an interest-bearing account where the town benefits?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And we do not have to report any interest received when we do the reports on
Okay.
how the money is being expended. That is more free money coming out of the free money, and that free is in air quotes because there's nothing free
Yeah.
that's coming from the federal government down and trickling to us.
How much has been dispersed so far? 1.2?
1.2-ish, yeah,
And that's been
Well, that's
dispersed.
the town portion.
the town portion.
But where we received a portion of that, because I believe that second disbursement is coming with that other portion of the town end.
Yes.
But you're correct. I mean, it's 1.2 county town.
Yep.
Tap into fiber for TCTV to get better signals and flip Comcast off. Not the personal Comcast, but you know.
Infrastructure upgrades are an approved use, and the webinar today, both Franklin and Stowe very much used the initial CARES Act money and anything that spilled over into this. You also have to look at the town of Franklin, 35,000 people. And let's say, I don't even know what the assessment is, Steve, for the Comcast as each individual pays in. Let's say it's $20. But you have.
Communities
I don't
have
know.
already spent this money.
They've already spent this money.
We gotta get our butt in gear. You know, this is a lot of money, very important. Do we want to put together another body that can concentrate on this, putting together, go ahead.
My thoughts are, and I think Tim's going about this the right way. He's been on the webinars and everything, paying a lot of attention to this, and we chat about the ARPA funds. But I think this is the first step moving forward on having it be put into an account for if there's interest.
Yeah, we don't have a plan for it right now.
Right, correct, but in the time being, at least we have till fiscal year 2026. And then this sets where the select board have authority over any disbursement out of that account.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I'm just saying, if other communities are already starting to see the benefits of the intended use of this money, I'd like to be able to, you know, it's not gonna be one meeting where we're like,
Oh, no.
Hey, do you want fiber? Oh, you want fiber. Hey, do you want a couple cheeseburgers? And we're done.
In my training, it was always, you get a chunk of money, you put it in an account and you sit on it for a year and, well, think
We
about
are
it.
a few months away from planning fiscal 23.
Yeah.
So 26 ain't that far down.
Yeah.
No,
It
it's not.
isn't, but
And there are
Yeah.
communities, you go on the MMA website and just look at the open
Oh, yeah,
job
they are.
postings. There are a lot of communities are actually looking to hire a full-time ARPA funds coordinator.
wow.
Yeah, that could be,
Take forward that essential worker out of this
Yeah.
to deal with it.
instead of another
because,
committee.
Hey, like I said, before you know it, I'll be 70 and it'll be fiscal 20. No, I'm serious. It'll, boom, it'll be here and we'll be going like, back that cow up because we gotta milk it quick, or they'll change the rules.
Yep.
Or something will happen.
And the
So
challenge,
it's get it, put it aside, and then we start. I mean, we gotta start.
So can we use it to replace the ESSER two funds that we used already?
no.
No, you know, we can't put it in the account and
No,
say,
you cannot.
okay.
Yeah,
we
that
is-
already
yeah,
did
you say
that
you're thinking,
thing.
187 page document released by the United States Treasury, absolutely.
Did you give back
says
the money
no.
you got in your birthday card?
Well, no, I'm talking about putting it in our budget because we made a hole.
The benefit of doing this, and if we invest this, as you start piecemealing and spending a little bit here, a little bit
Yeah.
there, the reporting requirements are kind of up in the air. Is it a quarterly? Is it a bi-annual report at the 6-month point? We know at the end of each fiscal year, yes, there has to be some kind of a report kicked off to the US Treasury. But if we invest it and move it, it's a real simple, yep, we took the money, we put it in the bank, and it's working for us right now, and that satisfies that requirement. And then if we push that to year 2 or year 3, we have some wiggle room, and then we can really look at where should we be using this.
I'm
So,
assuming there will be, like an audit requirement with already current federal funds that, even they give it to the state, the CDD, you gotta audit because it starts at the federal, even though they take it out of our pocket, it goes to Templeton, to Boston, to
Yep.
DC, but it's, when it comes
Yes.
back, it's federal money and you gotta audit it, but,
Yep.
so we should get it, put it in an account, the treasurer will see it, make money on it, first and foremost, and then start, what are we gonna do with it?
Amen.
And me personally, I see infrastructure a big thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, and, we can't get really big on it because, a couple million, it looks like a lot of money until you start.
right,
Yeah, it
putting
disappears
stuff in,
quickly.
Until you start spending it, but,
Mhm.
but yeah, we do need to start prioritizing and getting what we're gonna do with it, because it'll be here before you know it.
It sounds like it is here.
Money?
The first disbursement.
Yeah, you received the disbursement.
We have it.
Go ahead, Adam.
So I already discussed with department heads, they're going through and compiling a list to come in front of the board.
How juicy.
So the process has been moving. We're exploring ways to do so. Suggestion perhaps, because the select board still have to find, if they were to vote on this evening on the disbursement, the select board have authority, but perhaps, I'm not sure if the board would be interested in having a joint meeting with advisory, even though I want to say a joint meeting, but invite the advisory committee, but even though select board have authority, maybe they have some recommendations that they want to make.
I was thinking that, I always try and figure out a way to involve them with, large considerations like this. But from a short-term perspective, if we have the ability to make a couple of bucks off of this and we don't have a plan in place, let's do the near-term thing and put it in that interest-bearing account. And then let's develop the situation. And if we choose to have a joint, hire somebody, have a joint planning session, a breakout from our, a specific breakout session from our retreat. That's coming up pretty quick too. Because our retreat, that matrix, our hopes and desires as the board are quite frequently tied to a dollar amount. There may be some opportunities in there where we can align our goals with some of the ones that we thought were pipe dreams. Now they may be achievable, so it is.
But I do like the fact of having it where we have a discussion publicly, because that way citizens know, okay, department head so-and-so came up with this idea. This seems like a good one. This one, okay, Bob came up with infrastructure improvements of X amount of dollars, the board decides to go forward with that, whatever it might be. But I think it's certainly something with 2.4 million coming to Templeton's, an amount that I'm never sure this town's ever seen come that substantially one-time funds coming in, excuse me. Okay.
Kudos to Mr. Toth.
Well, I just give kudos to the presentation, and I had the time and was able to pay attention to what was going on. I just felt it prudent and worthy of sharing with the board.
Appreciate you, Tim.
In the time being, I move to approve the ARPA funds being held in a separate interest-bearing account from which funds may be dispersed after being approved by the select board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion of that as a near-term goal? Hearing none on the motion to put the first dispersal of the ARPA funds into an interest-bearing account. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Absolutely.
And I vote yes as well. Thanks, Tim.
Great work.
All right, next action item is a disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest from Adam Lamontagne. Adam, take her away.
I filed this under the advice of town council. I live Cherry Street, which is relatively close to 10 Pleasant Street. If we were to discuss the plan moving forward, whether to demo the building or whatever work we need to get done and get an appropriation, let's say at the fall town meeting, just to be on the safe side, I felt it would be appropriate because my house is 0.4 miles away from this property. So just the appearance of a potential conflict.
And your gain would be in property values? Because if 10 Pleasant becomes nice and, you know, if they put up something else, you could gain. I know where your house is. I don't think it's a conflict of interest.
It's just, so there's no fuzzy area. It's just upfront.
Yeah, as a disclosure.
transparent,
Yep.
and It's boom.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to accept and approve the disclosure filed by Adam Lamontagne and authorize the town administrator to move forward with obtaining estimates for possible asbestos removal and demo of 10 Pleasant Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Thanks, Adam, for filing that. Well done. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none on the motion to accept and approve the disclosure filed by Adam Lamontagne and to move forward with estimates for asbestos and demo of 10 Pleasant Street. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, before you proceed, due to the very similar disclosure I have, being both a town employee on the fire department and the elected official, the 20D3, and I also have a 20B disclosures. So for the following two items, I will excuse myself from the meeting, so there's no appearance of any conflict of interest.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, we got 3 items left. The next 2 are from our fire chief, Dave Dickey.
Thank you Chief, for staying. I didn't know he saw the agenda. I was like, oh. And he knew it was towards the bottom of
Get
it.
situational awareness of all this other stuff going on.
And he put
He
together.
said, he stroked it, I saw him, he stroked his mustache and said, ARPA, huh?
So I'll let the chief take it away on this. He's been working on this, I guess, the last year.
Yeah, so,
And this was a
basically-
material weakness that we had from years past as well.
And
So this
so
is-
the
yeah,
chief and I
exactly.
discussed it, and
Basically, over a year ago, Carter and I started working on updating the collection policy for the ambulance service. I don't know really why it never got brought up to the board. I was working with Carter. I brought him a proposal for updating what we had, and then it never moved forward after that. So this is, I took what I had worked with Carter on and actually I brought it to both Kelly and Adam for review. And I also went to the billing company and had them run through it because they have a lot to do with this as well. And this is joint effort between all parties to update what we have for billing policy. It would take what's in the books now and just really define it a little bit more, giving certain people roles. Adam and I take roles on, as well as the board on write-offs, and so forth. And it gives certain timeframes, bills go out for 150 days from the billing company. They send out X amount of bills in that day. After 150 days, now there's no collection agency or anything. That bill just, the billing company says, well, Templeton, write it off. Under the new policy, at 150 days, there would be one final bill that went out, reminding them that this is still owed, and asking for payment. And giving, in that final bill, it's actually a letter telling them if they have a hardship that they need to declare, now's the time that they can declare it. And there's a paperwork that goes in with it, is based off of federal guidelines every year for family size and so forth. And they actually have to show it. They have to come in, they have to send in the paperwork saying, giving, their income, their bills, why they're asking for the hardship. And even more, if there's any other reasons they feel it should come in. The hardship letters come in and would be reviewed by Adam and myself. And anything over $2,000 would get bumped up to the board. And it would go from there. If
That form that you're referring to, if I can make a recommendation to make it a one-page form, I think you can just do some creative squishing, but basically that second page is just a signature or otherwise.
Yes.
I think a
it's
lot of
probably all
times
in spacing.
forms and, the people getting stressed out over this it can be a little bit hectic. If you just do some wordsmithing, give it to someone to help you out. But making a one-page form, I think it will make it.
It can be
easier
just
for
like
you.
spacing and stuff. That is a template that the billing
agree.
company gave.
Yep.
And so forth.
I'm
So-
just thinking of the people that will wind up using this
Using it
and not seeing it as a couple of pieces of paper they gotta fill out, but like just
Realistically,
this is
talking,
helping you do it.
realistically talking to area chiefs, when it gets to the point that they actually have to fill out this paperwork and prove they have the hardship, there's not many people that do it.
Nope, just an observation.
And then, so now with the new policy, after 150 days, and if there's no hardship, it would go to collection agency.
Yep.
Where we would see a percentage if the collection agency was
Yep.
ever able to collect something.
Right.
So. In the packet, basically the letter that would go out is the outstanding emergency medical services bill. Is the last letter. That's kind of like a holding place in this. This is giving you the information of what the letter would say, but that actually comes from Coastal. They have a template they use for all their towns and services that they bill for, and they would just take our information and put it into their final thing. It's much easier for them on that standpoint, so that it's already in their billing software. The final letter has all the placeholders for the information we would have to give. But this is that's the information that would be going out in that letter. There is one thing that I actually updated in this. And if you look at, in the collection policy, it is 7.3.4. It's in section 7.3. I checked right off.
Exactly what I was gonna ask.
Some other communities do something similar to this. Coastal will not tell me who they are. They just say there's other area towns that do it. They won't tell who their customers are and so forth. And when we did start the billing of the ambulance, we did say we did not want to go after townsfolk as much and things like that. We want, so something that I put in here is any town resident 75 years or older with a balance of less than $200 will be written off, not sent to collections. And this basically talking with the billing company is after the senior citizens, and it goes to Medicare, it goes to secondary insurance, MedX and so forth like this. This basically could take care of a copay they might have if they can't afford their copay. And
How about 70? You have it in here,
Exactly.
any town resident 75 years old.
I can make that change. I actually dropped 5 years off of it. Some of the other area departments were up to 80. I have no trouble, I dropped it down to 75. And realistically, I can tell you, I did that because my parents are 78 and 79 and I'm seeing what they're going through now. So I dropped it down a little less than that. I'd have no trouble with wherever we want to drop it.
Yeah, my thinking is that too, because I think 65 now, his Medicare, here's this, you gotta go on this, and then they don't pay so much, depending on the plan you have, if you have supplemental and stuff, and I'm getting like up the walls, but they have co-pays and stuff they have to meet and then things, and like you said, I think 70, I think it should be lower, but
We could also up the 200. I know other towns that's a little lower. And when Coastal was telling me, he said, that 110, 150 really doesn't cover it much anymore. I bumped it up to 200. We could do 250, 300 and drop it to 70. This is.
I like that.
because that's what I'm thinking, co-pays they have, if you have, this plan, I'm just thinking Medicaid, Mass Health, Medicare, Standard A, B, they have co-pays, or they only cover so much of this. I know there's, in 2018, they signed legislation that extended limits for rural ambulance service. When you get to the fees, I'll bring that up. But there's just a lot of things that I think 70 would be closer to where
And bump it up.
I think it should be. 75 is, I just think 70.
My 2 cents, there are seniors that can only afford to eat 2 meals a day, according to the director of the senior center, that can't afford more than 2 meals a day. So I would say, yeah, take it down a notch and maybe bump up to 250, 300. I don't know how everyone else. Rest of the board
I look at
feels.
the and make sure that I'm staying straight here. When we talk about the numbers, I forget if it's budget time. I forget where you brief us on it, but you give us, hey, this is how many we have outstanding. These are the ones I'm never gonna see again. In terms of measured risk, I don't think we lose. I don't think we're taking a whole lot of risk by dropping it to 70 and making it 300.
No, I don't either.
Right, so I think trying to be, equitable for all those reasons, I think that, whether it's good faith, however we want to capture that, I think that's a good policy to be able to move forward for. So I'd say, great policy, number one. Thank you for writing all this through that. I didn't really have a whole lot of things. I think everything made, number one, it was clearly, concisely written. I could follow it. The only The only things that I saw was that age and the dollar figure as well. I think that's great if we can do 70 and 300. And then if you can fit that stuff onto one page for the hardship letter, I think you got a winner.
Thanks for bringing that up too. It was very nice of them to point that out to us, that it was a thing we could actually have a say in and change.
It does clarify what's currently in the financial management policy as far as write-offs and collect.
That's what I thought. Yep.
Because it does, the policy now does speak to it, but it's really broad.
Yeah.
Right,
And
that's why Carter and I, when we looked at it over a year ago, wanted something that was a little bit more defined for,
Because it
Well done.
leaves a little more interpretation or gray area. This puts it a little more clear for down the road, because you and I can sit here and say, yeah, this is what we're gonna do, but you know, intentions.
right.
So if it's clearly written and then it's in there, the next person can look at that and say, oh yeah, that's how we deal with this.
I would move to approve the ambulance service collection policy as presented with amendment to 7.3.4 to reflect 70 and 300
So moved.
and authorize the town administrator to incorporate those into the town policy format.
So
And
moved.
strike out the full policy in place with this.
Okay.
Second,
All right. I had a motion. You had a second. Any further discussion? That's an acceptable amendment. Chief, if you can fit that on one page, I'm not going to put that in the motion, but
Yep, I will try best I can to get that down in the one page.
well, it sounds like he's going to do some wordsmithing just based on that, the
We can
policy
also put it
format.
into
Yeah.
the policy format so I can.
So make it on the one line.
more people might fill it out if it's all in one.
I'm with
one
Mike
page.
on that one. You need to put it on.
Short and sweet. Make it short and sweet.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none on the motion to approve the ambulance service collection policy as presented with amendment to item 7.3.4 reflecting 70 years and $300 and authorize the town administrator to incorporate those into town policy format. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you very much, Chief.
And so with this, I'm still working on the final form with coastal, and I have to bring it to Adam, and I'm sure he'll bring it to town council to make sure it's legal and everything, but now where Adam is going to be seeing information and the board is going to be seeing information, I will be having a HIPAA release sign off for everybody, because no one can see that information without signing off that we're not going to do anything with the information and share any of that information. Because you will be, when you go to actually do write-offs and see this, you could be seeing people's names and pertinent information. So any of that you get to see, you can't do anything with.
It's been a while since the board. You recall the last time? I mean, I know it came before the board right up, and it was a big number back in, I think 11 or.
Well, we had brought, Adam asked me to get that for you guys. When I went to the billing company, they had a number that was gonna be quite large. But when I was looking at it, some of them were right around that, just over that 150 day area, some were a lot more. So talking with the president of the billing company, she said, get your new policy done first before you bring that number to the board to be written off, because there could still be a lot of money on that table that can go to collections still. So this was step one. Once I'll make those changes, get it to Adam, then I can get it to the billing company. And then that will change that report coming in to say, here is now definitely, you're not gonna get anything from, we're sending this to collections, and there'll be a new number coming in. And by this policy, I think it'll be like in December or something that you gotta.
Because I remember it was quite large because it had just been sitting there and hadn't been. You know,
Well, it is, and there's, so if our ambulance bill, like, so if you look at our rates right now, right? So our average ALS bill, our paramedic bill is $1,750 before you get into any mileage or any other items that we bill for. Medicare doesn't pay that. So Medicare pays $700, we'll call it. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. So that $1,000 is what we're looking to write off, because we're never gonna collect that. We can't collect it. We cannot bill a Medicare patient more than Medicare offers. Medicare, if Medicare says they'll pay the $750, it goes to the patient's got a copay they could pay. They might have to have secondary insurance because the bill is that $750. You will get mileage and everything. Maybe it's $1,000. If Medicare doesn't only pays up to $750, the patient could be responsible for $300 plus their copay. We can't go after that total $750.
Chief,
So that sits there, and that's what we'll be looking to write off and on.
in the interest of time, it's all excellent, and I'm glad that we got this. Can we move on to the next agenda item? I've got Tim Alex still on the line for one more agenda item after that, and don't want to, yeah.
Okay, well, the next is, billing rates. We have not increased our rates or even really looked at increasing them officially since January of 2017. The information I gave you with rates of us and then clients 1 through 5, those are all area that in our Worcester County area that Coastal deals with, and all of their rates. And I had suggested just bumping those rates up a little bit. Something to know about the rates. It's not a huge, it is a little bit of a moneymaker, but it's not a huge moneymaker, okay? Like I stated before, Medicare, Medicaid, Mass Health, all have their same rates, what they pay. You're not, just because we bill $1,750, doesn't mean we're getting $1,750 from those entities. We gotta take what we get. Those rates are good for the commercial insurances, so the Blue Cross Blue Shields, the Fallons, things like that. It's good for motor vehicle accidents. Motor vehicle accidents pay full rate, they don't pay Medicare rates. So, those are the things that would pay that full rate. Last year, our service did 53% of our billables were Medicare, 21% were Mass Health. So you take that 74% right off the table of all of our calls. 24% was commercial insurance, and 2% were motor vehicle accidents or private pays. So we're talking about 26% of our calls would be the new rates. So it's not huge as in money for us. Excuse me.
I don't have any questions for him. I mean, based on how he said with the area and when the last time we raised it, and they seemed reasonable to me, I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah, it was actually discussed, voted to do it November 28, 2016, and I couldn't find the numbers, the rates, but I in my brain box, most of them almost doubled at that time. There were big increases from, because they'd been sitting on, the rates been sitting on books since they started charging, I think in 2006, I think.
When did we go ALS?
Is when they.
Well, ALS was 2013.
So it was just BLS stuff before.
Well, we had ALS rates and everything like that.
Oh,
The
okay.
transporting company does the billing.
Got it.
So,
I
Yeah,
understand.
they used to have like Woods do the ALS
Understood.
jump. They do the billing and the town would get, they get a percentage or part, whatever
Right.
it would work. But, yeah, like I said, I couldn't find, it wasn't included in the minutes. It's just a vote as presented. But I remember a lot of the rates, there were big increases because they had been sitting there and this was ALS, you know, they were accounting for that. So it was a big jump then. And like I said, my only thing is they, in 2018, they extended out the 3% increase in the ambulance fee rates for ground ambulance in rural areas and the 2% in scheduled rates for covered ground in urban areas. And that is extended through December 2022. So I don't know what they're gonna do when 2023 rolls around, or, you know, who knows? So, but I know the rate jump was because of the 2013 town meeting vote when we started going sort of full-time ambulance service and all that ensued. And that was some of the reasons given for the big rate increases.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
The percentage. Yeah, 6%. I mean, even just looking at the first one, up, you know, up an addition of $100, it's 6%. Is that what you got?
Oh, I didn't do
Oh,
that.
just-
I just did the amount.
I did, as far as Jeff was talking about where they were big increases before, these are modest increases
Yeah,
done by the chief based on data. So, data in time. So I'm good with it. I would move to raise the ambulance rates as presented.
Second.
Motion in a second. Okay, hearing no further discussion on the motion to raise the ambulance rates as presented, how would you vote, Jeff?
I did have a question. Effective when? When would it go into
When would
effect
the effective
immediately?
date be?
If you guys voted tonight, I'd bring it to the building department, be soon, we can do it effective date. So you can name one to be a couple of months down the road, or we can do it as soon as coastal can put it in the books.
Do you want to put an effective date, or do you want it to go into effect immediately?
I would say immediately.
So again,
I would say immediately. We haven't gone up on our rates in several years.
I would-
We are all aware of that. Yeah.
I'd say give it a year, like to match with the fact that we didn't go up on the fees. Remember, we gave the people with the fees an extra year to
but those would-
recover
yeah.
from COVID.
And we're gonna, this now in the policy will get reviewed every year. So if you wanted to put it off for a year, then just don't vote for the increase now. Let's wait a year for it and go then. You know, we're in the middle of the group of peers, I guess, from what coastal gave us when, you know, we're high in some sections, low in other sections. My bump wasn't equal in each section. It just kind of leveled us out what the other area departments were doing. And I know of at least a couple departments that are towns that will be doing the same thing we're doing tonight in the next month or two, reviewing their rates as well.
So we're basically getting up there with them.
No, we're in the middle to high right now. I'm not
Middle
gonna
to
say
high?
we're low. Our mileage
Yeah.
is on the lower section, but
Lower.
we're not the lowest either.
You know what I'm wondering is if you could do a pattern like every 5 years.
Well, we're gonna look at it every year now with the new
Every
policy.
year, right.
So the board will look at every year, and if the board decides year to year, they don't wanna do an increase, that's up to the board.
It's based on data too.
Yeah,
So if
Adam,
we start being the top in the area, then we're not gonna raise it.
what would, okay, so, but what if
No.
we're not here?
If we did not raise the
Based
rates
on
now,
data.
we would still not be the lowest in the area. If we raise the rates, we will not be the highest in the area. So,
And I think it's important to note here, I think Jeff brought it up at one of the meetings, and keeping consistency here, like chief coming in and having this reviewed in December, going over the write-offs on the board, having them come to the board. So we really want to have something where it's clearly delineated what we did with that policy, but at the same token, go through this and really examine it each time and just staying on that schedule like we have with our budget. Like we have our schedules that we follow for annual town meetings, whatever it might be, but staying on that track and seeing where the chief may bring up some other communities that he looked at with coastal that are examined, and really coming in with what he believes as the fire chief to be the best way to move forward with his department on how they go about with these ambulance rates and what he finds suitable for his folks fair, or for the fairness of people that were to utilize the ambulance and how we could actually get there collectively. With the board getting involved in that process, I think is where we all want to go with this. That's my take on it. And I think by us having this discussion and being able to review it is the key on where we want to go. Like the Chief said, if you wanted to wait a year, Terry, I would vote not to do it in that sense, if that's what you personally believe. But like the Chief said, you'll be back in a year with this, and maybe even higher. I don't know. It depends.
We're gonna be
So I
back
have-
every year
Can we
anyway, no
change-
matter what we
I
do.
just had two questions. If it, go ahead, Mike.
I'm-
So Adam, my question to you was, would it make sense, I know we're coming every year and we're gonna adjust if we have to every year, but all right, so that's fine. Do you have to vote on can you separate them out? Like I can see
We
the
can make a
gas,
recommendation.
I can see the gas.
Let me say this. So
Okay.
we were talking about modest increases. ALS, so there's 4 lines there. First line, ALS. He's proposing a 6% increase. The next one, ALS 2, a 1% increase. BLS, 27%. So even if you were to drop that by $100, that would only be a 10% increase.
Our BLS rates are on the lower side compared to everybody else. That's why the bigger
Okay.
increase.
So that one's,
They are lower, right? Than a
Yep.
lot of other.
and then the
Thank you.
mileage
That's
increase
clear.
is only 9%.
Yeah.
I would
Because
stand by the
our
motion.
ALS too, we were on the higher side, so for
Okay.
less of a percent increase.
Thank you. I understand it great now.
Yep.
Okay.
So the motion that we have is to approve it as presented, and they would take effect immediately.
And I get, number one, I hate bills. I mean, everyone's tight on bills and everything. So I really, Jeff, I know you're questioning it, so I guess I'd like to know your opinion before you guys vote on what you're looking at.
Well, my concern is the 74% of your transports, which kind of goes along with the population of the town, which is about 40% or so seniors, and it's growing. And a couple other things that I'm just, depending on what happens down the road with ambulance receipts and the spending of that money, and you kind of know some of my feelings on that. This year, tonight, I would be a no. Next year, depending on what happens with a couple of things, splitting out the ambulance budget, and the fire budget, and seeing what that is. I'm watching the ambulance receipts, and that fund is growing a little bit, but we keep taking out of it for non-ambulance stuff, which just bugs the hell out of me. Next year, I may be a yes, but tonight, I'd be a no. Just,
Would you be a no to any increase at all, or just? an
I'm a
increase?
no to no increase. Mainly, right tonight is that 74%. And that's a lot of people that are low income.
But they're gonna be paying the Medicare, Medicaid rates, they're not gonna be even seeing this increase. They pay
Right.
What the Medicare.
I
rate is.
agree with
I
you.
know, but it's kind of like you push in the cost increase on the 20-something% that fortunate enough to have insurance. I'm just not ready to go there yet. Like I said, there's a couple other things that gotta fall. I could be a yes next year, but my reasons are a little complicated, like maybe.
No, I understand, I wanted your opinion, because I saw you sitting there struggling, so I wanted.
Everybody wants Jeff's opinion.
If there was something that I could answer better to make you feel more
There's
comfortable. I
a few
wanted
people
to
that
do it.
don't want my opinion, trust me. My dog is one of them. Yeah, that's just, like I said, my reasons are multifaceted. But I just can't go there yet.
Okay.
I like your plan, and I'm glad to see that as far as addressing the write-offs, the drop in age. Again, I think it should be lower, but that's another story, another day. So that first step was good. I like that. This, I'm just not.
In the future, we can look and see what some of the age of the write-offs are too. If we get the write-offs and see if we need to drop that age
Oh,
too to
yeah.
help.
That's a good idea.
Well,
There's
that'd
a
be
trend.
something that you could put in, with the hip stuff, so it's not out there, you know?
Yep.
There's, what people realize now, there's one budget book out there, and I ain't gonna say the year, but it's got. town employees,
Thank you for
and
that.
Social Security numbers, everything. I don't know how that flew, but I got it at home.
Thanks for
I
not
may
getting-
have yours,
You're
I
the
don't
one who
know.
filed
But I'm not,
unemployment. Thanks
I'm
for
not
not giving
saying.
me a year on that one.
But, you know, so, yeah, we could look at the age breakdown and see this, that, and the other thing, but just tonight, I'm not ready. I like I like your presentation and the fact that you brought it forward and you outlined it and stuff. But I'm just not there. Okay, all right.
All right. Anything else? Because I can take a vote on this. All right, nothing else. So the motion is to approve them as presented. How would you vote, Jeff?
No.
Carrie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I'm gonna vote a no. I agree. If we've got the time and maneuver room,
So
so it
when
did not pass 2-2.
you had me when you said it doesn't, Medicare and Medicaid kicks in, so the people that are hard pressed that you're concerned about aren't gonna see that,
Yeah.
to my knowledge.
I didn't feel right based on the data that was presented, so. We'll live to fight another day.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I would,
Like I said, there's some things if they fall.
my,
Okay.
my perspective was if we had a plan of
There's no way I'm gonna
increase,
get that done in 5 minutes.
if we had a plan of increase, then people could count on it. If we said we're gonna review it every year, but we're gonna
Thank you, Chief.
increase it every
Thanks,
five.
Chief. I appreciate
Thank
that.
you,
Well,
Chief.
he's got, I mean,
I'm gonna go get
the data that Jeff was specifying.
I was in the bathroom.
Well, no. He's got his marching orders. He knows exactly what to come back and
Well, and
brief.
again, other communities
Yeah,
doing this
absolutely.
next
He
year,
knows
we
what
can
he's
get to the
doing.
bottom of the
Yep.
barrel and realize
You know-
that we do need to raise rates. Or we can see that other communities thought the same way you did and no one raised rates, so.
And can I just make the statement that we need as a board to remember that when our department heads come in here, they are much more qualified than us in so many areas. You know, we all have different opinions and we all want to look out for the town, especially our department heads. I put a lot of faith in our department heads. You came in here with a
Yep.
fantastic policy. I understood it when I read it on Thursday night. You know, we get these packets and for me and my position, being able to see something that is so clear cut and then start making a judgment decision on it, that's fantastic. That's showing me that someone that's running our department knows what they're doing.
Yep.
And I put a lot of respect into those positions. I
Thank you.
really
We'll
do.
bring rates up again.
Thank
next year.
you.
That's all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it,
Thank you.
Chief.
Thanks. All right, last item on our agenda, amended agenda tonight is item P as in Papa, and that is our Templeton Elementary closeout. Tim, Alex, thank you for hanging in there. I know it is 3 minutes to 10. We'll have to take a vote at 10 if we're gonna go beyond that, but I very much appreciate you hanging with us.
Sure.
Adam, however, you and Tim want to present that to the board, we'll work on suggested
Yes,
motion.
there's some documents we received. I hate to put things on after Thursday, but because this project's been going on for so long, I felt the urgency to get this to the select board and for a vote, so we can move forward with the audit process with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Tim, did you want to kind of take it from here? I appreciate your patience, waiting the whole evening with us. I probably should have told you on the phone, not 8, but by 9:30, but.
No, that's okay. I'm happy to do it. It has been a long process. You know, it took a long time to find a site and to get the building underway. We're happy that the students are in the building. Unfortunately, we were entering into the closeout phase and we hit COVID, and there were certain processes that had to be completed, and that's taken some time, but we were working through those and getting everything complete. And really at the final stages now of submitting documentation to the MSBA, at which time they'll do their final audit. When they complete their final audit, they'll provide a final accounting, and they'll ask that the district sign off on that. Once the district signs off on that, then they'll schedule a MSBA board meeting. Put it on the agenda for one of the board meetings. The board only meets every other month. And their agendas often are full, and you may get bumped to the next meeting. So it still may be another few months before this is really totally closed out. But they do preliminary audits as they go, so we don't anticipate any major issues with the audit process. But some of the things that Adam is looking to get your approval on and signature on is just a final reimbursement request. All along, we've been submitting our invoices as the project is being built and billed, and the MSBA will reimburse the district the percentage, your percentage of reimbursement on eligible costs. Certainly not everything is eligible. And so we've been kind of going through and trying to maximize costs so that we can try and classify them and make sure they're classified correctly and maximize the eligible amounts. And so that's really kind of the last few things that we're going to be working on is some final invoices that have gone in, and we're looking to reclassify those and get those maximize eligibility. But the first thing that was going to be signed is that statement or certification of their final reimbursement. There's also a budget revision request where we have to transfer money from the contingency line item into the construction line item. That's going to be, yes.
We have a policy. If we're going to go past 10 o'clock, we just have to do a quick motion. Hold that thought for 15 seconds. I make a motion that the select board moves to work past 10 p.m.
Second.
Okay. No discussion on the motion to work past 10. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. I'm sorry, Tim. Please proceed.
No, that's quite all right. So anyway, we just have a couple forms that we need to fill out, working with the MSBA and discussing with them today what are kind of the last few items. That's one of them, a budget revision request just to move money around within the budget. That was kind of lost in cyberspace. Apparently that Chris Casavant and the school committee chair had signed that back in May, but we had never seen it. And so that's, we need to get authorization for your signatures on that. And then a sources and uses form, basically, it's just the MSBA wants to know where else have you gotten money for the project? Did you get any additional grants? Typically, when you get additional grants for the project, they reduce their grant by that amount. So most times it's not in your interest to get any other funding sources. You know, I know you're talking about CARES Act and additional federal monies, and we don't have that on this project, but that would be the one instance where the MSBA has made some adjustments to their guidelines. I don't know that you've had a chance to look at any of this information, but the building committee has been going over it for the past few years. Holly has been entering this ProPay information into the ProPay system. We've been auditing it as we go. So we're just looking for final signatures to be able to get that final MSBA audit process underway.
And I did see that you emailed, or Chris Casavant had replied back and showed me the signature page.
Yeah. Yeah, that appears to be what he signed electronically. So then now we just need the, that final signature block.
Right. Does anyone want to see that?
Yeah.
So the last page of the signature page in your packet,
Okay,
which is that is the project funding agreement budget revision request number 2. So they signed that.
So that one just needs your signature.
Yep.
we just do the sign.
Project funding. Adam, have you reviewed these?
I have.
Okay. In your estimation, is this basically just tying up the project? So these are the last certifications that we need to go forward with.
That
Okay.
is correct.
Project funding, I'm busy writing a motion, that's why I'm. Revision. Request.
And I will have Polly review them Monday as well.
For the proper signature. That if we
Well,
authorize
that's
tonight,
Why you have to?
Well, she
Yeah,
handled that.
that's why I asked you. I don't look to Holly for.
I don't either.
Yeah,
No, she handled the MSBA portion of the project.
okay.
so she's just reviewing.
But it's,
I reviewed it.
yep. So I would move to approve the final request and certificate for reimbursement and the project funding agreement budget revision request number 2 as presented and for the chair to sign.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions on these 2 documents?
Chair, I do have one just for clarification.
Sure.
And this may be a standard boilerplate document. But this, what I'm looking at is the Narragansett Regional School District and the MSBA. But correct me if I'm wrong, the construction project of this was not an NRSD function, that was town, and the town took on this debt.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure the wording is correct, because it looks like the school currently holds the debt, and that would not be a true statement.
We have a lease with them.
We have a lease with them.
As far as project goes, that when I read through this, I look at the completion of the project. You know, are we getting, I say we collectively, because we do have an agreement with them, a lease. Are we getting what we paid for? Any outstanding punch list or otherwise? This is the final certification before we can go forward to the MSBCA. That's, I left it at that. But I think that's I thought that as well, but that's why I was satisfied, because we had worked pretty hard on making sure the language of that lease.
I just wanted to make
Page
sure.
2 right there,
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about.
I just wanted to make sure because it was a little ambiguous.
We wouldn't have to ask
But
twice.
yeah, to your point, you know, as far as the punch list, et cetera, I
Mhm.
would sincerely hope all that was done prior to a
Yeah,
certificate of
and that's-
occupancy for the building being issued.
I agree.
Yeah.
And embedded within those figures, that's why I kind of looked to my CFO to say, I haven't been following the money. I know how much the total cost is because I write speeches.
Yep.
Yep, there you go. Thank you. Any questions for Adam or Tim? Okay, hearing none on the motion to approve the final request and certificate for reimbursement and the project funding agreement budget revision request number 2 as presented and for the chair to sign. How do you vote, Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes,
Julie?
yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. All right. Tim, thank you so much for hanging with us. Hopefully, You know, it was very interesting to go through all those Templeton things, you know, a little bit more about our community tonight.
Oh, I feel like I live there.
There you go.
We'll miss you.
Well, thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are past 10, but since we've voted it and we're here, we get to talk about it. Anything else we want to, because we are finished with old business. And we do not have a executive tonight, correct?
That is correct.
We just saved your job. So we are up to board member and administrator comments. I don't have anything, so,
I do.
okay.
My first thing is the town website, under boards and committees. We've appointed recently and some back in the early June. Specifically, I looked at the advisory, the cemetery, and the recreation. We have people's names on there that resigned. There are people serving, been to 1 or 2 meetings and their names aren't listed. And there's just a few that they really need to be updated. And I'll just comment real quick to Justice's point about getting a packet and stuff. And some of this is on the town's fault, and some of this I think is MMA and others. MMA sent out an email, I've gotten a couple of them, urging towns to update town officials. They put out a book that has all town officials.
Right.
And sometimes, like, I was the chair of the advisory committee for 2 years. And we sent the thing in, but I sent the email, but we were still getting envelope Chairman Wilford Sprint. It happens that way sometimes. But when back in 2014, the MMA Select Board Association sent out it was electronic, on a little thumb drive thing, the Selectmen's Handbook to all newly elected and current select boards. And sometimes it's incumbent on the committee or the board, like the advisory committee. They have the Association Town Finance Committee, and they put out a handbook. It's got all the information you need to know on there. So I know the school committee, you got the book, you probably, the thing you didn't have to ask for, but there is a process, there is things available. Sometimes the associations, some of it's on the town for not notifying them of newly elected officials. They used to put it in the beacon, like newly elected people, and they would get put in that quarterly thing. So there's kind of a cross disconnect, but I guess we as a town could ensure that when people get sworn in, you go to the clerk's office to get sworn in, what committee you in, you grab a stack and say, here's an information packet for you. This is what you gotta do, which reminds me, those people that we appointed tonight, please email them and remind them that before they can go serve and vote, they need to get sworn in, do the open meeting law, I think they increased the time now, I think to 30 days from 14 days, but they need to, just to remind them, so they don't show up and sit at the table and they're not sworn in.
Good point.
I get a date with a bear cub, so that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
2 things. If the board wants a copy of the finalized Boston Post cane policy, I have extra copies of it. If you'd like to see the finished product, it was a nice time, and they appreciated Mike being there and signing it with his John Hancock, and his signature is now at the Historical Society with the policies with the thing. Second, if anyone has questions in the community, I did reach out to Joel Vautour to get a tour of Otter River State Forest and the cutting that's going to go on. So if anyone in the community has questions, you can email me at tgriffiths@templetonmass.gov. I think you get about the rest of this week and some of next week to get your questions to me, and I'll be happy to ask, because she's going to go and her boss is going to go. So
Cool. That's cool. That's pretty responsive.
yeah, and I hope everybody was safe, played it safe on Monday with the fires, the fire conditions from Canada and
It was something else. I can you can smell it.
Yeah.
Monday afternoon. Julie?
All set.
Tim?
Just a real quick update, the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee with the NRSD, we're actually a subcommittee of the school committee. I know we will be coming up on the school committee's agenda for reappointments because we've spanned a fiscal year. And there was some email traffic going back and forth. The committee's been working real hard. The two consultants have a whole big punch list we've given them to go back and get some more answers, and we're doing a lot of wordsmithing. The agreement is by no means in a final form yet. We were having some challenges maintaining quorum, so the next meeting for August has been postponed. We will be meeting again in September. Hopefully I'll have a little more information that we can bring forward at that point.
Sure, we can put it on the agenda.
Again, it's just another living document at the moment.
Thanks, Tim. Adam?
One thing I have is nominations for the Special Merit Award, and we get the Pinnacle of Excellence, the communications and efficiency. It's open, available right on the town website, so please get your forms in to our office by either emailing me at amontagne@templetonma.gov or to hyoung@templetonma.gov, or just simply drop it off at our office.
Thanks, Adam. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
yeah.